Good morning. Welcome back to Behind the Scenes here on Planet Doug for Monday. I think it's Monday, July 8th, and I'm in the city of Dalat in Vietnam. I don't have a lot of things to talk about this morning that are related to Vietnam, traveling in Vietnam, anything to do with this country, but I have a lot of things going on in my head, more to do with YouTube, making YouTube videos, that sort of thing. So I think I'll end up talking about a lot of that this morning. The very first thing that's on my mind this morning is a little bit of a tangent though, because I'm still using AI quite a bit. I downloaded this AI app called Perplexity. I don't really know much. I know a little bit about how these AI chat things work, but I don't know a lot about all the various options that are out there. The various ones that you can download from all the big players. Some you can pay for, some of them are free. I just happen to have ended up with this AI thing called Perplexity on my phone. I downloaded it at some point because I think I heard about it in a podcast. I downloaded it. It may not be the best one out there, even for me. I have no idea. But anyway, it's the one that I happen to have on my phone, and I use it all the time these days. I'm getting more and more fascinated by AI in general, which I think is, the world in general is getting quite fascinated with AIs, their possibilities, the things they can do. And I think for quite a while, we're all going to be playing a game of catch up, because I don't think we truly understand what they are and the effect that they're going to have on the world in general and on everybody's lives. But at a very basic level, what I've discovered is that when I'm editing a video for YouTube and I'm looking for information of any kind on the internet, less and less am I going to Google. I'm doing far fewer Google searches for information. I'm not going to Wikipedia as much as I used to. More and more, I find myself opening up Perplexity and just asking Perplexity for the answer. And as I've talked about in the past, I think this is because of the way a normal Google search works as opposed to an AI search. Because when you type something into a Google search bar, it gives you a list of websites that might contain the answer to your question. So you don't really get the answer that you're looking for, you get a list of websites. And then you click on one of the websites, open it up, and then you look for the answer, you look for the information. So it's kind of a 2 or 3 step process. And what an AI does is go straight to the answer. So for example, let's say I wanted to know when the Vietnam War ended exactly. You can go to Google search and type in a question like, when did the Vietnam War end? And then you get a bunch of websites and you click on the website and then you look for the answer. But when you go to Perplexity, you type in, when did the Vietnam War end? It just gives you the answer. The Vietnam War ended on this day, this year. And then it will give you a list of all the sources where it got that information from. But it's just much faster. It's faster and more convenient. So I find I'm using Perplexity all the time, which is kind of interesting. Anyway, the other day I was just sitting here working on something, and I think I was thinking about my name, Douglas. The full name, of course, is Douglas. And I've never liked my name in particular, mainly because it's a very simple name, Doug, 1 syllable, sounds a little bit like a grunt. And when you go overseas, particularly in Asia, people have trouble saying it. It's not a sound that comes naturally to anybody. So if someone tries to say my name, it usually comes out dog, the animal, or duck, the other animal. And then if I try to tell people, well, just call me Douglas, I'm assuming that's going to be easier. 2 syllables, Douglas. But then it always comes out something like Douglas. So nobody can ever say my name properly. And something else I've noticed over the years is that the name Doug in pop culture is generally reserved for a doofus. So if you're watching a movie or a TV show, I always think about the writers of that TV show or that movie. I think about the guys in the back room writing the script, and they create this character, and this character is a bit of a doofus, a bit of a nobody, a bit of a joke, and they think, well, we have to give this character a name. They always call him Doug. I've noticed that pattern over time. You might have the hero of the movie, he's got a really cool name. You got the villain of the movie, he's got a cool name. And then the hero might have a friend, a doofus. He works at the local video rental shop, or he works at Radio Shack or something. He's a sales clerk at an appliance store selling stoves and refrigerators. That guy, his name is always Doug. It's very rare that a cool guy has the name Doug, or the hero of the story is named Doug. Anyway, so I've always had these feelings about my name, and I've often wondered what it would be like to have a different name and things like that. And then anyway, this gets around to AI, because I was thinking about AI, I was thinking about my name, and just on impulse, I typed into Perplexity, what is the history of the name Douglas? And I'm sure I've done that in the past. I must have looked for the origins of the name, but I don't remember what I found out. But this time, Perplexity told me 2 very interesting things. I was going to look at my notes, but I don't really need to. It told me that the name comes from Scotland, and in Gaelic, it means dark water, dark waters. And I really like that. I was like, yeah, okay, that's cool. And it said that the name Douglas comes from one of the most powerful clans in Scotland, the Douglas clan. And there's actually a town in Scotland called Douglas. So that was a cool bit of history. So I thought, okay, obviously I'm not Scottish. My family comes from the Netherlands. So I'm not Scottish in any way. I cannot claim to be a member of Clan Douglas. But, my name is Douglas, so maybe I can be an honorary member of one of the most powerful clans of Scotland, the Douglas clan. And my name, according to them, means dark waters. And I like that very much. So my name got a little bit more cool to me. I started to like it a bit better when I found that out. And then my AI Perplexity went on to say that the Hawaiian version of the name Douglas is, get this, Kukalaka. It might be pronounced Kaukalaka or something like that, but it's Koukalaka, Kukalaka. And apparently that is Hawaiian for Douglas. And I don't even know if this is true. This is what Perplexity discovered on the internet and told me, and it may not even be accurate, but I like that as well. So I was thinking my new name should be Kukalaka, or I can change my YouTube channel from Planet Doug, now it can become Planet Kukalaka. I was thinking, the t-shirt Kukalaka, all the branding possibilities with Kukalaka. It's just fun to say. And oddly enough, recently, this just popped into my head, on YouTube, I've been getting fed all of these Seinfeld shorts. And I think that's because I started watching the final season of Curb Your Enthusiasm. I think season 12 was the last season of Curb Your Enthusiasm. And I started watching it like months and months and months ago. And then I quit because I wasn't enjoying the episodes. All the episodes for season 12 felt very forced and kind of over the top. for me, the charm of Curb Your Enthusiasm in the beginning seasons was that it was very grounded in reality. And in my opinion, the Larry David character, he was always right. He got in all kinds of trouble and everybody was always angry with him. And yet in all the situations they created in the show, Larry was generally in the right. But his problem was that he would point out things and say things that polite people wouldn't say. He didn't have a filter, and that's why he got in trouble. He got in trouble not because he was a jerk, not because he was wrong, but he got in trouble because he had no filter, and he would say the things that the rest of us were only thinking, and we wouldn't actually say them because we knew it would hurt people's feelings or cause trouble. But Larry David didn't care about that, and he would just say the things that we were thinking. That was, for me, the charm of the show. But in season 12, they seemed to have run out of ideas, and Larry David, the character, just seemed to be a complete jerk, and the situations were over the top, not really believable, not grounded in reality. And the other characters were extremely unpleasant. I just didn't like the storylines. I didn't like the characters. So I basically stopped watching season 12. But then I started getting fed all of these Seinfeld interviews and Larry David interviews. And one thing they talked about was how the finale for the Seinfeld series was not well received. And I remember that because the last 2 years, the last 2 seasons of Seinfeld, Larry David wasn't with the show anymore. It was Jerry, it was his show at that time. And in the past, Jerry and Larry would co-write the scripts. They had a whole bunch of writers, but then Larry and Jerry would come up with the idea, sketch it out, hand it off to their writers. The writers would write the complete script, send it back to Larry and Jerry, and they would sit in their office and rework it and then finalize the script. But for the final 2 years, it was only Jerry. He was the only one there. Larry had quit. But for the finale, Larry came back. And then the finale of the whole series was a co-production between Jerry and Larry, just like in the old days, but everybody hated the finale. And I can see why you would think the finale was a good idea. It's very clever on paper, but it didn't work. I didn't enjoy it either. I thought it was it was an unsatisfying ending to a show that I really enjoyed. And then in all these interviews, Jerry and Larry were being asked about this, and they were talking about the finale for Seinfeld. And then they said that, well, they thought that in Curb Your Enthusiasm, maybe they can finally get it right. I didn't realize this, but I guess season 12 was the last season, and they were going to have a finale for Curb Your Enthusiasm, and they were going to repeat the same finale that they had for Seinfeld, but this time they were going to do it properly. So that got me interested in the show again. So I went all the way back to where I stopped watching season 12, and I started watching the episodes again, and I watched the episodes all the way up until the finale. And the reason I went off on that Seinfeld Curb Your Enthusiasm tangent is because in one of these online interviews with Jerry and Larry, they happen to be talking about what makes certain words funny. Jerry has a very precise view of comedy, and in these interviews they were talking about how the letter K is inherently funny. Any word that has the K sound is a funny word. So if they happen to be writing a script and they want to mention a product of some kind, they always look for the product that has a K in the name because it's just a funny sound. So that's why something like kukalaka, with all the K's in there, that it's a funny sounding word. And the fact that it's funny fits with Jerry's theory about the K sound being an inherently funny sound. So apparently Douglas is a very cool name, coming from a powerful clan in Scotland, and the Hawaiian version is Kukalaka. And I was very, I was very pleased to discover that. A lot of my thoughts lately have been taken up with YouTube and video editing. That's mainly because when I first came to Vietnam, I had certain ideas about how I was going to shoot video, and then it turns out that I completely screwed up again, because I was going to move very quickly and make a lot of very fast, more upbeat videos about traveling through Vietnam, but it didn't work out that way. As soon as I started recording video, even before I arrived in Vietnam, when I started heading to the airport in Malaysia, I was in Malaysia before I came to Vietnam, I was in Kuala Lumpur, and even when I left on the morning of my flight to go to the airport, fly to Saigon, as soon as I hit record on the GoPro, I just fell back into my old habits. And my old habits are to record a kind of video journal. And then when you keep a journal, of course, you have a journal entry every day. So I just, without even realizing what I was doing, as soon as I started on my trip to Vietnam, I just started recording a video journal all over again. It's a very hard habit to break because, as I've talked about before, I've been a lifelong keeper of journals. I like documenting my daily life, whether anyone is aware that I'm documenting it or not. I'm writing things down, I'm taking pictures, and I'm recording my day-to-day life. And in a way, my life of being overseas and traveling is in kind of a symbiotic relationship with keeping a journal. It's like a loop, a snake eating its own tail, because I might do something interesting, going way, way, way back in time. My very first trip overseas was on a cultural exchange program to India. So that's something interesting that came into my life. And I was keeping a journal about that experience, and it became a habit to do that. And then it eventually became so much of a habit that my awareness that I'm going to be writing in my journal the next morning, it made me go out looking for interesting experiences today. So I would go out and do something in my life, not entirely because I absolutely wanted to do it, but because I knew it would be a fun experience to write about the next morning. Do you see what I mean? So once you start keeping a journal routinely, it actually makes your life more interesting because you're aware of it from the outside. It's like you're an observer of your own life. And if you happen to be, as I was, say, living in Taiwan, working in Taiwan, and then I know that on Sunday morning, the first thing I'm going to do is wake up in the morning on Sunday and write in my journal. That means on Saturday, I feel inspired to get on my scooter and roar out into the countryside and climb a mountain or try some new food or go along, do something interesting with my life so that when I wake up on Sunday morning, I have something interesting to write about. So the journal and my life became two sides of the same coin. And because of that, it's so ingrained in my nature that now that I'm kind of recording a journal on video, it's almost impossible to break the habit. So even though I intended to come to Vietnam and break that habit, I was not going to record a video every day. I was not going to record long videos, etc., etc. I was going to become a normal YouTuber. That was my plan. And then I just totally screwed up. My very first day, I basically recorded a video journal of my flight to Saigon. And then I woke up in the morning, my first morning in Saigon, and I started recording a video journal about my first day in Saigon. And then I did it for my second day, and then my third day, and then and on and on and on. I went to the War Remnants Museum, I went to the Independence Museum, the Independence Palace, I went to the Fine Arts Museum, the Modern Arts Museum, I went to the History Museum, I went to the Ho Chi Minh City Museum. And a normal person, for example, would have made one video about all those museums and called it the Museums of Saigon and shot 3 minutes about each museum. And that probably would have been a popular, well, probably not. Nobody likes museums on YouTube except me and hardcore Planet Doug followers, which I appreciate all of you very much. But a museum is not going to excite the world in general. It excites me. But anyway, but I was just saying that it would be more efficient, better YouTube strategy to make one video about all the museums. But me being me, because I'm recording a video journal, I made a separate video about every single museum, and each one is over an hour long, getting into an hour and a half long. And that's just what happened. So, long story, which is what I do. This is a long story to explain that when I was in Saigon for like a month and a half, I shot so much video that I got really bogged down in the editing. And here in Dalat, I basically decided to just hunker down and get as much editing done. Okay, so I screwed up, in my opinion, and I shot all this video, long form video that I didn't want to record, but I did, and I have it all. I have it all in here. I've got two terabyte hard drives jammed with hundreds and hundreds, or terabytes of video that I have to work through, and that's what I've been doing here in Dalat. So I have not had any new, ever since Daryl left from Dalat, basically, I've had very few experiences of my own going out exploring. I haven't left the city. Originally, I was going to go to Nha Trang and then to Da Nang and Hoi An and Hue, all the classic places that all the YouTubers visit. That's where I was going to go. But once I started editing video here, I realized, man, this is going to take weeks to work through all this video. It takes a long time. And I decided to just do it. Just don't fight it. This is what you did. It's the classic, you made your bed, now you have to sleep in it. I recorded all this video. That's what you did. Now you have to pay the price, and you just have to sit down and edit it, get it out of the way. So that's what I've been doing. And that is why here in Behind the Scenes, most of my thoughts are about YouTube and editing video and all the things YouTube related. So that's what I'm going to be talking about most of the time today. The first topic is something I've already talked about in a previous behind the scenes video a little bit, and it's the new feature from YouTube called Test and Compare. And with this Test and Compare feature, you can make up to 3 different thumbnails for your video and upload all 3 of them for the same video. Normally you make a thumbnail and you have 1 thumbnail for your video, but with this feature you can have 2 or 3 thumbnails, and then YouTube will run a test where they take those different thumbnails and show them to different people and then monitor how many people engage with that video. And this can be helpful to you as a YouTuber. It can tell you which style of thumbnail works better than other styles. And this, of course, would be of extreme interest to YouTubers in general, because for as long as I've been making YouTube videos, the topic of thumbnails has been dominating a lot of the discussion. And I'll be talking about this quite a bit because it's a bit of a theme for all these topics, that on YouTube, whether it's true or not, it is true, we have this idea that the YouTube algorithm dictates everything. And people who are successful YouTubers, in that their videos get millions or hundreds of thousands of views, we say, well, the algorithm has taken their videos and promoted them all around the world to millions of people, so they get a lot of views. And then other people who might make really great videos, high quality, entertaining, engaging videos, for some reason, they don't please the algorithm. The overlords of YouTube, the computer systems, don't like their videos, so they don't promote them. And because you, as a YouTuber, you did not please the almighty algorithm, your YouTube channel will never succeed. So there is this idea that you have to worship at the feet of the algorithm, please it, do things to get the algorithm's attention. You got to use hashtags, proper vocabulary in your, all this SEO stuff. And the more SEO you put in your video, including a certain type of thumbnail with a certain kind of image, and there's all these rules, there's all these experts out there that have entire YouTube channels based on telling people how to make thumbnails to please the algorithm, how to write video titles to please the algorithm. And once you make the algorithm happy, then your video will be successful. So it's kind of a weird way of thinking. If you get too caught up in these ideas, you end up not being genuine anymore. Like, instead of just doing what comes naturally to you, doing what you think is good or high quality, you end up trying to do things to trick the algorithm into promoting your video. And clickbait, for example, is a big thing, which I'm very much against clickbait. It's a very large pet peeve of mine. But you want to make your video sensational and amazing, and everything blew your mind. And there are all these tricks you can use where you're trying to trick the algorithm and you're trying to trick people into clicking on your thumbnail. And you use every technique in the book. And there's all kinds of theories out there. But anyway, I've been hearing a lot about thumbnails for years and years and years, and I'm horrible at making thumbnails. I find making the video itself, the editing of the video, the uploading of the video, is so time consuming, it's so exhausting, that by the time I'm finished doing that, I've got nothing left to even think about a thumbnail. I'm like, thumbnails, it's too much. It's the straw that breaks the camel's back. It's the bridge too far. So I end up getting very lazy. No, I'm not lazy with thumbnails. I'd happily invest a lot of time in them if I knew what to do. I don't have the technical skill in terms of graphics, the proper programs you need to design a beautiful graphic layout. I don't understand graphic layout. I'm just not good at it. And I've learned to dread making a thumbnail. So that's why a lot of my thumbnails are just basically a screenshot from the video, and then I put big letters, big yellow letters, ba, 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 that basically just say what the video is about. If the video is about going to the Independence Palace, my instinct is to use a thumbnail, a picture of the Independence Palace, and big words that say Independence Palace. That's as far as my imagination gets me. And what I'm supposed to do, of course, is make it look amazing. Like, this place blew my mind. It was amazing. And then I don't even tell people what it is, because now they're like, oh, what is this thing that was so amazing? And now they have to click on it in order to find out what I'm talking about. All these little tricks you can use. And I just never do things like that. But anyway, getting back to the thumbnail test and compare, it's a very interesting tool because it now can give you an actual report which thumbnail works and which doesn't. It can give you data, and I'm a big fan of data. So I've been using this test quite a bit over the last 6 videos or so. I've chosen different thumbnails. They're not great thumbnails. They're my usual style, screenshot from the video, big words, but I've been mixing them up a little bit. So I'm trying to make each thumbnail as distinct as possible. So for example, my first, the videos from the Mekong Delta, I made a part 1, part 2, and part 3, and I made 3 thumbnails for each part. And what I tried to do was have one thumbnail of me, my big head in the thumbnail, a thumbnail of, say, another person, not me, or perhaps a thumbnail that has no people in it at all. And I'm curious which of those thumbnails is the most attractive. And the results have been kind of obvious in a way, but also interesting. I was expecting to see a very big difference. So for example, in my first test, I was on a boat in the Mekong Delta. It was a day tour. I went down to the Mekong Delta, and there was one point when we were given the opportunity to climb out onto the prow of the boat and then pose there for a selfie. Our tour guide helped us do that. So I went out onto the front of the boat, and I gave my tour guide the GoPro, and he just filmed me on the front of the boat, but I grabbed a screenshot from that section of video. So the thumbnail is of me on the prow of the boat doing a YouTube style pose. But in our tour group, we happened to have some attractive women. And there was one woman from Vietnam in particular who was fairly glamorous looking. She was dressed nicely for the day, long black hair, very, very attractive woman. And she was really into taking selfies. She was there with a friend of hers, and the two of them were just taking selfies of themselves and of each other all day long. So she climbed out onto the prow of the boat, and she had a typical Vietnamese conical hat on. She looked very exotic, very glamorous, very beautiful, and then she posed. So I took a screenshot of her in the exact same place where I had been earlier. So that one thumbnail was of me, one thumbnail was of this attractive woman, and I thought, okay, this is going to be a blowout. The attractive woman thumbnail is going to get 90%, and I'm going to get 2%. Like, that seems to be a rule of thumb on YouTube for thumbnails. It's the rule of thumb of life. Beautiful women get a lot of attention. People see beautiful women on anything on the internet, they click on them. That's just what men do, and I think that's kind of what women do as well. That's why movie stars are beautiful women and handsome men. That's just the way the world works. So I thought it would be a complete blowout. But it turned out they were almost, I mean, the thumbnail of the woman was more popular, but it wasn't nearly as much. For almost all of my testing, 3 thumbnails each, it was almost always 33%, 33%, 33%. They were kind of even all across the board. The thumbnail of the attractive woman, in this case, I think had 40%, and the one of me had like 30%, and then another one had the remaining 30%. Does that add up to 100? Yeah, something like that. But the difference was not as dramatic as I thought it would be. And that carried through all of my testing. It almost got to the point where I thought, well, there's no point even me testing any of these things because all the thumbnails have an equal response for me. And then something else interesting came out of this test though, because I started to think, why would that be? Why would there be such a small difference between the different thumbnails? And then one solution came up, and that is that for my type of videos, they're a bit unusual, as I said, because they're longer, and I think I'm much more giving with personal information than the average YouTuber. So over time, people that have been watching a lot of my videos, they tend to be subscribers, because these are people that I get to know through comments, through messaging, meeting a lot of people in person. So yeah, I was chatting with a friend of mine with a YouTube channel, and if you go into the analytics, you can see, in terms of all the people who watch your video, how many of them are subscribers, how many of them are non-subscribers. And it's a pretty standard thing out there in the world of YouTube, that most of the people who watch your videos are not subscribed to your channel. So say if you take 100 people who clicked on and watched your video, maybe 95% of them will be non-subscribers. And if you're lucky, 5% of them will be subscribed to your channel. And you hear YouTubers talk about that all the time. But then I checked for Planet Doug, and the numbers are completely different. So I checked the numbers, I went into the analytics, and for my videos, it's closer to 40%. So 40% of the people who watch my videos are subscribers to Planet Doug. And I think that number is very, very high. So people who watch my videos tend to be subscribed to my channel, which means they're probably more personally invested than the average. And that can translate into the YouTube thumbnail being less significant. So these people might click on one of my videos no matter what the thumbnail is. So I can have a terrible thumbnail of just my goofy face, or I can have a thumbnail with a beautiful woman, but the difference between those thumbnails is not significant, because the thumbnail is not having a large impact on who watches my video and who doesn't. I think someone who clicks on one of my videos, as I said, they're often already subscribed to Planet Doug, so they know me quite well. They know what they're getting into. I don't have to trick them into clicking on the thumbnail. They know from the past what my videos are like because they are subscribers. And you can look at how long the video is. To convince someone on YouTube to click on an hour-long video, that's an accomplishment. So anyone who clicks on one of my thumbnails, they can see, oh man, that's an hour long. So they're probably interested in the topic. So they already have such a strong interest in the topic that they're going to click on the video anyway, just based on the subject. And the thumbnail doesn't have to entice them to click on it. They're invested in watching the video because they like the subject. And they're willing to click on a video that's an hour long. So they must be interested in that subject. Otherwise, they wouldn't dare. It takes a lot to get someone to click on a video that is that long. So anyway, I'm basically saying that the thumbnail testing has been very interesting for me, and I'm probably going to continue to do it for a while just to sort of answer a few questions that I have. But it doesn't seem to be a big concern for Planet Doug. The type of thumbnail, it could be that my thumbnails are all awful, but maybe they're all equally awful. The actual details are not actually that relevant. So if I choose a thumbnail which always has a picture of me, or I choose a thumbnail that has an attractive woman, there's really no advantage to doing that. And one of the other videos that I did this test for was part of the Mekong Delta tour, and we went to a snake farm, and I was thinking, ooh, having a big python in the thumbnail, that's going to be very interesting. And that's going to get a lot of interest on YouTube. Based on other videos I've seen that are popular, if they have a big thumbnail of a python, everybody's clicking on it. So I thought, oh, this is going to be a very attractive, a very successful video. That turned out not to be true in my case, by the way. But anyway, for the thumbnail test, I had choices between a picture of me with the python around my neck, and then there was a woman who worked at the snake farm. She was our guide at the snake farm. It was her pet python. She had the python around her neck. So I chose that as a second thumbnail. And I was curious, okay, what is the better thumbnail? The python is the same, the subject is the same, but are people more willing to click on me in the thumbnail or another person that they don't know, a person who looks Vietnamese, which will be the winner in this case? And it turns out there was no winner. They're almost exactly the same, 33%, 33%, 33%. All the thumbnails were equal. Though I should point this out, that the test is not what I thought it was. I just assumed from the very beginning is that all they would do is count how many people clicked on the thumbnail. That makes sense, right? The whole point of the thumbnail, it's advertising for your video, it's marketing for your video. How effective was your marketing in terms of your thumbnail? So how many people clicked on this thumbnail? How many people clicked on that thumbnail? But that turns out that is not the metric that they chose. They chose watch time. And that's a very interesting idea, and I've been thinking about that quite a bit, whether it's a good idea or a bad one. Overall, I like it because it seems more meaningful, because I can see a lot of people clicking on a thumbnail because they get excited by the image in the thumbnail, but then as soon as the video starts, they find it boring or they hate it or it's uninteresting, and they watch like 5 seconds and then they just close it. So if 10,000 people click on your thumbnail because it was a good thumbnail, but nobody watched any of the video, well, obviously there's something wrong. So just clicking on the thumbnail is not really a very significant or meaningful number or event. So what YouTube decided to do was combine clicking on the video with then how long did the people watch the video. So yeah, watch time basically. So one thumbnail, they click on it and they watch 30 minutes of your video. The second thumbnail, people click on it, but they only watch 10 minutes of your video. And then they compare them. And then they tell you, okay, which thumbnail led to more watch time? And I thought, I like that idea. And the way YouTube explained it, I like their explanation where they said, well, it has a lot to do with accuracy of describing what your video is about, because your thumbnail is supposed to tell people what your video is about and what kind of video it is. So if they see that thumbnail and they make a decision, oh, that looks interesting to me, and they click on it, but then it turns out your video doesn't match the thumbnail, then their expectations aren't met, so they don't watch any of the video. So what YouTube is saying is, okay, your thumbnail, it's important that it looks good and it gets people's attention, but it also has to be meaningful and accurate, so that if you look at the thumbnail, it tells you what kind of video it is, what the video is about, and then you click on it and the video matches their expectations, they're more willing to watch more of the video. You get more watch time. So I like that. It was a rare decision for YouTube that I kind of approved of. I just assumed they would just count clicks. How many clicks does it get? And then that Clicks, of course, can lead to a certain superficiality on YouTube where people are just trying to trick people with misleading thumbnails, with clickbait, and then it kind of encourages that approach. It encourages you to make your videos wilder and crazier and make your thumbnails shocking or something. But if all of that doesn't match what the video is about, then it actually is counterproductive. So yeah, I kind of like that. Using the test was a little bit confusing and complicated, but I guess that's par for the course. I was going to talk about all the details of how you use the test. Maybe I'll run through some things very, very quickly because I have all the ideas in my head. For one thing, it's hard to find. You can only do it on your computer, on Google, like a web browser. It's not available on the mobile app. That's a big thing. So if you're a YouTuber and you want to do this test yourself, you have to go to YouTube Studio on a web browser, Google Chrome or something like that. Open the video for editing, scroll down to the thumbnail section, and then it shows you a thumbnail that YouTube has chosen, a screenshot from your video. But on the video, there's 3 dots, a 3-dot menu. You have to click on that 3-dot menu and it opens up a 4-item menu. And I think the one at the very bottom is called Test and Compare. You click on that and then it opens up a menu where you can upload 3 different thumbnails. And there's a couple of tricks here. One is the video has to be less than 2 megabytes. Oddly enough, all the thumbnails that I normally upload through my phone, they're accepted, no problem. But if I ever try to use those for the test, they're rejected because they're too big. They're bigger than 2 megabytes, which is weird. From my phone, it can be 5, 6, 7 megabytes and the thumbnail works. But if I try to upload that same thumbnail through this test, it says no, it has to be under 2 megabytes. So then I have to convert it into a smaller resolution or do something to make the file size smaller. So that's one little trick. The other trick that I came across is that the test, any evidence that the test is working only shows up once the video goes live. Like most YouTubers, we do the thumbnail and the description and the uploading and the tagging and the chapters. We do all of that, but then we close the video and have it scheduled to go live in the future. So we say, make this video public at 5 o'clock today. We don't do it right away. But if you do that, you have the video scheduled to go live in the future, you get a message at the bottom that says, for the video, the thumbnail test, it says ineligible. And the first time I did it, I saw that and I went, ineligible? So I thought I made a mistake. It's telling me that my video or my thumbnails are ineligible for the test. And I thought, oh, for Pete's sake, of course. So I went back into it, deleted all my thumbnails, looked at them, read all of the instructions, went into all the guidelines, went into all the forums, trying to figure out what it was I did wrong, re-uploaded all the thumbnails, closed everything, and ineligible. Everything I did, it just kept saying, nope, ineligible, nope, ineligible, nope, 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 nope. I thought, oh, of course. How can it be any other way on Planet Doug? But basically what that ineligible means is that the test can't start until the video goes live. So until it goes live, the test is not running yet. So it was really stupid on YouTube's part. They do so many of these dumb things. Their word choice is always so inaccurate and so misleading. So instead of saying ineligible, telling you that your video is ineligible for this test, what it should say is something more informative, like pending. The test will begin when the video goes live. The test will begin when the video is posted to your channel. It's like, ah, okay, Okay. And the other difference is, even though you chose 3 thumbnails for your test, YouTube Studio only shows you 1 thumbnail. So I'm like, where are my other 2 thumbnails? I didn't really understand. But as soon as the video goes live, now in YouTube Studio, the thumbnail changes and shows 3 slices. There's still just 1 thumbnail, but it shows you 1 piece of each thumbnail. So now it's like, okay. And then the test is running. The other trick that I learned over time is that the thumbnail test takes a long time. The default, I think, is 14 days, 2 weeks. And then the test will run for 2 weeks. And at the end of the 2 weeks, YouTube will automatically end the test. And then the winner of the test, that will become the thumbnail for that video. But it takes 2 weeks for the test to run. And I thought, well, that's kind of useless to me, because a travel video, after 2 weeks, it's not getting any more views anyway. The thumbnail has now become irrelevant. It's the first 1 to 24 hours. That's the key time for a travel video. Anybody who's going to watch your video, they click on it within the first 1 day, basically. So that's when the thumbnail is important. So waiting 2 weeks to figure out which one is the best thumbnail doesn't do you any good, because it's way too late. But what you can do is, at any time, go into YouTube Studio, go down to the thumbnail, click on the 3-dot menu, and then now there's an option that says View Test Results. So even if the test has only been running for 2 hours or 3 hours or something like that, you can already see the results of the test. Click on that, and then you get a breakdown. Shows you the 3 thumbnails, and then it says watch time share, and it tells you 60%, 20%, 5%, whatever the breakdown is. As I said, for me, it's almost always 33, 33, 33. All my thumbnails are almost identical, so it's kind of pointless. But if you want to choose the best thumbnail as early as possible, you can just do it. You don't have to wait for the test to end. Just go into YouTube Studio, click on the menu, View Test Results. You can see which thumbnail is the best, and then you can, somewhere in that window, you can click on something, end the test, and set this one as the main thumbnail. So you can look for the winner and select it before the 2 weeks are over. So that's another trick here. And again, when it comes to the YouTube labeling and vocabulary, when you look at the results, it says watch time share. And that confused me for a long time. So, because it looked like, okay, it's also tracking how many people share the video, like watch time share. I didn't know what that meant for the longest time. But what they really mean is percentage. So your total watch time, what share of the total came from this thumbnail, what share of the watch time came from this one, etc. So they're choosing the word share was really, really dumb. It should say watch time percentage. That's what they mean. They don't mean how many people shared your video. What it means is what percentage of the total watch time comes from each thumbnail. So anyway, watch time share actually means watch time percentage. I found that very confusing at the beginning as well. All these people at YouTube, at Google, I'm sure they get paid hundreds of thousands of dollars a year working at this amazing corporation. And all those geniuses, they couldn't figure out that the word share was going to confuse people on YouTube. I never understand that. I'm just a doofus here in a doofus YouTuber, and I'm confused by almost everything that YouTube puts into their systems. It's always inaccurate or misleading, and I never understand how that is. I often wonder, is nobody in charge over there at YouTube? This whole you're ineligible. Like, what? That's a mistake. watch time share, that's a mistake. There's so many of these things that are so obvious to me. As soon as I look at them, it's like, oh, that's weird. But somehow nobody at YouTube that reviews any of this ever looks at it and goes, oh yeah, that's going to confuse people. Why don't we call it watch time percentage? Yeah, I think that's better. I don't know how these things slip through the systems at YouTube or at Google or at any of these big corporations. I always have this idea that all these people out there around the world making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, smart enough to get a job at YouTube or at Google, I think they all must be geniuses or something. And then I see the work they do, and I'm always thinking, yeah, they're not that smart, really. So it's like, yeah, Google, hire me. I can be your consultant, reviewing your systems for you, because all these mistakes are so obvious to me. I think they'd be obvious to anybody, but YouTube and Google, they do these things all the time. So, moving on to the next topic. Though, to be honest, I'm going to go have lunch, and after lunch, perhaps I will come back and continue with the next topic. But yeah, I got to go have something to eat. I'm back from lunch. It was very good, but very busy at the same time. I usually these days have lunch and no dinner as a rule. So lunch is my main meal of the day. But I do often end up going for a very early lunch because the restaurants around my neighborhood can be extremely busy. So I go there as early as possible to defeat the rush, to miss the rush. So it's almost like a brunch. I have a brunch every morning, and then I settle in for the day and do all of my Planet Doug YouTube editing. So the other topic on my mind, continuing from the last one about the YouTube algorithm, how your videos get promoted and spread around YouTube, and choosing the right thumbnail to do that, and then testing thumbnails to see which one is the best. Something else I didn't know anything about really, but I kind of had heard about it occasionally from time to time, is that you can actually pay YouTube to promote your video. You can promote your own video. So instead of trying to get the algorithm to spread your video around, you actually pay the algorithm to do it deliberately. And I think in the past, whenever I thought about that, or I think if this topic comes up in casual conversation, people will dislike the idea because it would be like cheating on YouTube. There was this whole idea in the past, I don't know how common it is anymore. There were companies out there that would offer a service where they would give you fake views and fake subscribers. You could pay them X amount of dollars for X number of thousand subscribers. And they do their computer wizardry, their scams, whatever they're operating with all their bots. And you basically pay for views and pay for subscribers, but they're all fake. And that is obviously bad and pointless and dumb. No one would do that who was a reasonable human being. But this idea of paying YouTube to promote your video often gets put in that same category, I think. It feels like you're cheating, that if you're making a YouTube video, it should live or die based on its merits. Is it entertaining? Is it pleasing visually, or is it informative? Whatever good qualities your video may have, it should be popular or unpopular based on its merits, right? That's automatically what most people would think. But if you stop for a minute, you realize, well, no, the world doesn't work that way. Everything is advertised. Coca-Cola, I love Coca-Cola. It's probably my favorite drink. And it's a very good drink, but Coca-Cola, they don't just sit around and say to themselves, well, our drink is really good, people will just buy it. No, Coca-Cola spends, I don't know what their budget is, tens of millions, hundreds of millions of dollars a year on advertising. And if you think about anything closer to YouTube videos, like a movie, the big studios, they don't invest a massive amount of money and time and talent into a movie and then stick it in one theater in an alleyway and hope that people stumble across it. Obviously not. They invested all this money in the movie. Well, they also have to tell people the movie, it exists. They have to have this huge opening weekend push where they invest literally, again, tens or even more millions of dollars in advertising. Because it's make or break time, like opening weekend for a big blockbuster movie. That opening weekend is so important. So they have to plan very carefully for that, and they'll put their movie into 5,000 theaters across the United States, and then they'll spend tens of millions of dollars on marketing to tell people the movie is playing, and then they're also telling them the movie is really, really good. It's marketing, and nobody has a problem with that, right? YouTube itself is entirely based on marketing. All of the economics of YouTube is based on this idea that people who watch your video are also being shown advertisements. They're marketing other products in your video, and then people learn about those products, may or may not buy them, and then YouTube gets paid advertising revenue, and a little bit of that trickles down to the scrub YouTubers. So yeah, the world runs on marketing, so what's wrong with marketing and promoting your own YouTube video? Because clearly, for any art form, assuming you can call a YouTube video an art form, you have to get it out into the public. You could sit in your bedroom and write a novel, and it could be the best novel ever written in history, but until it is published, nobody knows about it. So it's not like you're going to write a novel and then put it in your desk drawer and leave it there. I mean, you could, but it doesn't do anyone any good. No, you've got to get an agent, and your agent gets a publisher, and they publish the book, and they market the book, and you go on a book tour doing readings from your book. You have to promote and market your book. So what's wrong with doing the same thing with a YouTube video? Technically, nothing, really, when you think about it. It does feel a bit odd on the face of it to pay YouTube to promote your video, right? It sort of feels like they should be doing that for free. But there are so many videos on YouTube now. It is such a crowded market. They can't distribute, and it wouldn't be wise of them to distribute all of the videos equally in the YouTube homepage feeds. They're trying to make money, so they have computers that are analyzing everything, and if they see there's engagement with your video, well, they'll promote it more because they make more money. The more people watch videos on YouTube, the more money YouTube makes. So they're not going to, out of the goodness of their heart, promote videos equally, good ones and terrible ones. No, they're going to promote the good ones, and the terrible ones, they'll just die on the vine. Nobody will watch them, and that YouTuber will eventually stop making videos unless it's a complete labor of love. So yeah, there's really nothing wrong with promoting your product, whatever it is, and if your YouTube video is your product, what's wrong with promoting it? There's really nothing. So after thinking about it, I came around to that point of view, but I didn't know anything about it. I'd never done it. I didn't know how it worked. I didn't even know where it was. I didn't even know if everybody could promote a video. I thought maybe there'd be restrictions. You can do it for this type of country, or not that in this country or that country, this type of video, not that type. I didn't know. But a friend of mine started looking into it, and then through him, I learned a bit more about it. So I got more curious. And to be honest, all I wanted to know was how does it work? And the only way for me to ever learn anything is to have direct experience. So what I decided to do was take one of my videos and actually promote it. So I did it for the first time. And it's only been promoted for 1 day. And so far there's really been no results, but it has been an interesting experience. Though, as with the thumbnail testing, I found it very confusing. A lot of the way they set it up, the vocabulary they chose to describe it, and then the steps you have to go through, which was just mystifying. There were so many steps where I had no idea what they were talking about, or what they were saying was completely wrong. Everything was really confusing, but maybe I'll talk about that more in a minute. But what I did was I chose one video to see how it works. You can choose as many videos as you want. I chose one. And then you can choose the countries where you want to promote that video. And I guess you can add as many countries as you like. And I'm assuming the price goes up or down depending on the country, because the American market, of course, is a desirable one where the payment for advertising is higher. Consumers, in theory, have a lot of money to spend in the US as opposed to many other countries around the world. So if you choose Western European countries and Canada, the United States, Australia as that's where you want YouTube to promote your video, it's going to cost more than if you say promote my video in India, Sri Lanka, Pakistan, countries like that. So the price, I assume, goes up or down. It doesn't tell you anything about that. Basically, what they ask you to do is choose the countries, and then how much do you want to spend? What is your budget? And then you basically have to pick a number out of a hat. And then the promotion goes on for 10 days. I guess you can extend it, but the default, I think, is 10 days. And then whatever budget you specified will be divided up over those 10 days. So what I did, I didn't know, all I really wanted to do was go through the process. So it's not like I'm going to say, well, $1,000 or even $20. I originally was just going to say $1. But I thought if I spent $1 on this promotion, I wouldn't get any usable results because the promotion would obviously be very, very small. So I thought, just for fun, let's go for $10. And I guess it ended up being 10 Canadian dollars because my Google account is based in Canada. So anyway, it ended up being 10 Canadian dollars, which is like $7 US. And then things got a little bit confusing because I chose the video. As my countries, I chose Malaysia, Canada, and the United States, I think. They actually populated a screen and made a bunch of suggestions. And one of the suggestions was Malaysia and the United States. And there are a few others. I deleted those ones. And then I just put in Canada because I'm from Canada. And I've often thought it's kind of a shame that so few Canadians ever watch any of my videos. My fellow countrymen are not part of my audience for the most part. So that's what I did. 3 countries, 10 days, $10, and then they spend $1 per day. And then I think at the beginning as well, you can choose what your goals are. Like, what is it you want to get out of the promotion? Are you looking for more views? Are you looking for more subscribers? Are you looking, I can't remember all the options, but the biggest ones are, of course, views or subscribers, and then maybe like engagement, comments or something like that. And then they will give you a report. If you say, well, for my promotion, I want more views and more subscribers, and then they give you a chart, a little like a spreadsheet, and it tells you this promotion resulted in this many views and then this many new subscribers. And they track it, so they're not telling you total number of views for that video. That's separate. What they're tracking is when they show someone your thumbnail as part of the promotion, does that person click on it and watch the video, and does that person end up subscribing? And it tells you a video to results relationship. So that's in theory how it's supposed to work. So yeah, it's only been like one day for me, and I don't know what the results are. I haven't checked. But in terms of the confusing part and some of the gotchas, it was really confusing at the very beginning because I didn't understand and they didn't explain exactly how the promotion works. I started with the assumption that, well, all they're going to do is put your video thumbnail in more places. Maybe the algorithm takes your video and puts it into, like normally, puts it into 1,000 Google, YouTube homepages. Maybe they do it 1,000 for my channel, let's say. I don't know what the truth is, but let's just, as an example, 1,000. But now I've paid them to promote it, and maybe they do it in the normal 1,000, but then they put it in 100 more feeds. For $1, I get 100 thumbnail placements, and then they track what happens. That's what I assumed would take place. But then when you decide to set up your promotion, now it asks you for a promotion title and a promotion description. But they don't tell you what any of these things are. It's like, okay, now please write out your promotion title and your promotion description. I'm like, well, what do I write? I have no idea. The video already has a video title and a thumbnail, and text in the thumbnail, has a description section, hashtags. What more do you need? So like if they put the video thumbnail onto somebody's YouTube feed as a promotion, does it look different from a regular YouTube thumbnail? If it must look different because they're asking me for a title and a description, which is separate from the regular video title and description. So I was like, I don't know what to write here. So I just did my usual Planet Doug thing, and I wrote down what the video is about. Nothing like marketing language or making it exciting. I just described the subject of the video, and then it got rejected. Rejected, 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 rejected. I'm trying to go through the steps where you click next, 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 and I managed to go through next, 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 but then the video title and description had a big red exclamation mark on it with a triangle saying, there's a problem here, there's an error. So I went back to that stage and it said, this title and description is not suitable. But of course they don't tell you why. Why does the whole internet operate this way? Why do computers operate this way? They just say error, but then they don't tell you what the error is. So anyway, I'm looking at that thing going, what did I do wrong? And then I go into the forums, into the guidelines, into the discussions, everybody's talking about it. And I realize that in my title and description, there was inappropriate punctuation. So I thought, inappropriate punctuation. I think in my original, I might have had a couple of slashes and then a dash and a question mark. So I thought, okay, which are these are inappropriate? So I started removing them. I removed the slashes, still said, nope, inappropriate punctuation. So I thought, I guess I can't use a dash either. So I removed the dash, nope, won't accept it. So I thought, I guess you can't use any punctuation. So now I removed the question mark, and it still said, no, we can't accept this. This is inappropriate punctuation. I was like, well, there's no punctuation at all. There's none. I deleted every piece of punctuation, so what is the problem? And I couldn't get past this barrier, so eventually I just ignored it, and I went all the way to the end, and then the very last stage is payment. So I finally got to the payment button, and I clicked on payment, and when I clicked on payment, the red exclamation mark disappeared, and my title and description were accepted. So even though I saved my video and description over and over and over, when I deleted the punctuation, it didn't clear up the error. But it turns out I had fixed the problem, but they didn't actually remove the error message until I got to the payment window, and then it disappeared. So there's another problem with their system. And then I got to the payment, and according to the instructions, I didn't really know how the payment worked, but I saw some language about your Google account. And my Google account has my credit card attached to it. So if I buy something from the Google Play Store, I get a subscription to an app or something, it goes through Google Play onto my credit card, which is connected to my Google account. So I just assumed, I wasn't sure. I thought maybe the payment that for your promotion would be deducted from your income from YouTube. So like every month they pay YouTubers once a month. And I thought, oh, maybe they're just going to take the promotion money out of the payment. So maybe you're supposed to get $150 that month. And they say, well, 150 minus 10 for the promotion. So this month you get 140. I thought maybe that's how it worked. Or it goes through your Google account onto your credit card. But there was some language about how you have to choose your Google account at the end in order to process the payment. So I thought, okay, I'll do that. I get all the way to the end, pay now, and there was no Google account. There's nothing there. So I thought, well, they told me I had to select my Google account, but there's nothing there to choose from. There's no list, there's no menu, there's no options. I didn't know what to do. Again, another big problem with the system. But I noticed that at the very end, there was a box that said Vietnam. And at first I didn't think anything of it because I'm in Vietnam, and I guess part of the promotion, they track where the promotion was purchased. I'm physically here in Vietnam. So I thought that was, but it turns out that your Google payment account, your Google account is attached to your country. So I had to click on Vietnam, and then I got a drop-down menu of countries. And I can pick any country in the world. I can pick Zambia, Taiwan, Malaysia, Indonesia, pick all these countries. No Google account shows up. But when I chose Canada, then the next window over opened up my Google account because my Google account is based in Canada. Which again seems really weird to me. The whole system is crazy because I don't think you can have more than one Google payment system, like one Google account. It's based on your country of residence. So why in the world did it populate my window with Vietnam and then no payment account? Because my Google account is in Canada, but I had to physically find Canada, choose Canada, and then a Google account showed up, and then I clicked on it. And then things got a little bit confusing because when I went into my YouTube studio, I was looking to see how much had I paid and had it been charged to my credit card, how does this work? And everything was pretty much blank. And because it said cost 0. So I was like, okay, I budgeted $10. Why isn't the cost $10? It didn't make any sense to me. So I thought, okay, maybe it only charges you day by day, because it kept talking about the budget per day. And I thought, okay, it works out to like 69 cents US per day. And I thought, okay, maybe after the first 24 hours, 69 cents will pop up. And after 48 hours, $1.40 kind of thing US. But I waited and waited and waited and nothing happened. And I was worried about that too, because I thought, well, if they charge you day by day, does that mean you get a new credit card charge every day? Like every day during the promotion, 69 cents US gets billed to my credit card. Then 24 hours later, another 69 cents. My bank back in Canada was going to freak out if that starts happening. So I thought, is that going to happen? Anyway, back to the forums, back to the guidelines, back to doing research, back to asking questions, back to looking. And then I finally saw that in my promotion listing, it said pending. So it wasn't active yet. And it takes them about 24 hours to review your promotion. They have to make sure that the video matches advertising guidelines. I guess they take a really hard look at the video. Whatever it is their computers do, it takes them 24 hours to approve your promotion. It's like, well, I wish you guys had told me that at some point so I didn't waste all my time doing research. And then after 24 hours, it was finally approved. And then at some point, I don't know when, I checked it this morning at some point, and it said cost 69 cents. So I paid for the first day of the promotion, and then I chose the one trying to get more views and more subscribers. And at that time, yeah, I did see it this morning. It said something like 111 views from that promotion and 0 new subscribers. So that's what I got out of that promotion so far for my $10. So yeah, that has been interesting. So that was another one of my little YouTube experiments, my little YouTube adventures lately. For my money, I'm sure I'm not going to be making a habit out of doing this. I'm not really making any money from YouTube anyway, so it's not like I'm going to start spending money to try and get the YouTube algorithm to. Yeah, I don't even know who this promotion is for. It may not even be designed for small YouTubers like me, because they did say at one point that if you really want to see results, you kind of have to spend a minimum of $125 US. They say that's kind of the minimum budget. Anything below that, and you're kind of just wasting your time and wasting your money. So if they're thinking some YouTuber is willing to spend $125 and up, then I think they're talking about people other than me, people like me. But who knows? As I said at the beginning, I don't have any ethical worries about promotion, about marketing. I've often thought that something I should be doing is my own marketing, because again, getting back to the YouTube algorithm, I think my personality, my interests, my style, the length of my videos, my thumbnails, everything about me and my YouTube channel is designed to be unpopular with the algorithm. The algorithm is not going to like me, and a broad YouTube audience is not going to like me or my videos. I don't have mass appeal in any way. So my audience for the kind of videos I make would be quite a specialized audience. I like to think of them as the smart people out there, you know, the good people, the people of good taste. And then if that's true, if your videos don't have broad appeal, the algorithm is not going to help you out in any way. So then perhaps if you know what your audience is, you should do your own marketing, target your own audience, because as I said, if you make something, if you paint a painting and I put it on the wall in my room, obviously no one's ever going to buy it or pay me for my art. No, you've got to go to the gallery, convince them to have a show, and then you put all your paintings on the wall and you print up posters and you advertise, and people come to your gallery opening and then they buy your paintings. That's just how everything works. So yeah, interesting. I'm enjoying my little experiments with the thumbnails and now the marketing. We'll see. Yeah, before I end this segment, I'll fire up my computer and I'll check my promotion and I'll tell you if it has moved at all. Did I get any subscribers for my $10? My total subscriber number for my channel is getting close to 30,000, which is a kind of a classic number. I think I'm at 29,745 or something like that. So it's not far away from 30,000. But my subscriber count goes up very, very slowly. So it's going to take a long time even to reach 30,000. But maybe a promotion like this will boost me up to 30,000 and we can celebrate. But I'm going to take a look and I'll let you know in a second. All right, I have my laptop on my lap and I have the promotion page open here. A couple of other interesting notes to wind this up. To start off with, I was wrong. It wasn't 111 views, it was 11. So out of this promotion so far, 11 people out of the 8 billion people on the world clicked on that video directly because of this promotion, and 0 subscribers. 11 views, 0 subscribers. And that was for the first day. 69 cents US I paid for that. But again, the language here is confusing to me. Some of them are obvious. It says here that the status of my promotion is active, okay? The goal of my promotion is audience growth, more views, more subscribers. The cost, it says, cost is the amount you've spent on this promotion so far. So it says you won't pay more than the total budget. So my total budget was $10 Canadian, and I guess they're going to spend 69 cents a day. So maybe that's Canadian. Anyway, 69 cents a day until the $10 is used up, and then the promotion ends. But then it gets confusing to me, because then it says promotion impressions are counted every time a thumbnail of your promotion is shown. So they're making a distinction between the video thumbnail, and the promotion. So the promotion is different from the video itself, but I don't know what the promotion looks like. I don't even know how to see it or where it goes. And then it says promotion views are counted every time someone clicks to watch your promotion. So I'm like, what does that mean? Every time they click to watch your promotion? How do you watch a promotion? Don't you watch the video? So the choice of vocabulary is always all over the place. I never understand it. So to watch your promotion, I assume that means that every time someone clicks on the thumbnail and watches the video, but they don't say that. It says it's every time someone watches your promotion. Again, making this distinction that the promotion is different from the video, which is kind of weird. But as I said at the beginning, they do ask you to fill out a chart, like you have to make your promotion. You have to write a promotion description, promotion title, and they're different from video title. So the promotion is distinct from the video, but they say how many times people watch your promotion. But anyway, it's all very confusing to me, but that's never a surprise. Quite often, as I said on YouTube, the language of these features is always, to me, inaccurate, misleading, or just downright wrong much of the time. And the final one, it says promotion subscribers, 0 for me, shows how many people subscribe to your channel after clicking on your promotion within 30 days. So they keep track of everybody who clicks on the promotion, and then if they subscribe within the next 30 days at any time, they count that as because of the promotion. Because that person learned about your channel because of the promotion, and they watched some of your videos, and now they finally decided to subscribe, and now those are promotion subscribers, which at the moment is 0. So yeah, a lot of fun. Yeah, very interesting to dive into this a little bit. The final topic that is connected with promoting YouTube videos or popularity of YouTube videos and a YouTube channel is my recent pattern of taking long videos and dividing them up into parts. So I talked about this in my previous behind the scenes, and I think I started with the Mekong Delta video, which the entire Mekong Delta video, I don't know the total length anymore, maybe an hour and 15 minutes, something like that. And then I would normally post that entire video as one video. That's just what I do. But then I decided to try an experiment and divide the long video, keep the long video as it is, but just divide it into 3 parts. Part 1, part 2, part 3, all part of the same story, the same experience. So I did that with the Mekong Delta, and I made 3 parts. And then, yeah, it was a pretty long and involved process to figure this all out and decide how to do it. For one thing, of course, you have to see where the video divides naturally. Does it divide up into different experiences? You can't just cut it just cut it wherever you want and divide it into 3 equal parts. You kind of have to look at the whole day, all the experiences, and go, okay, here's a natural break point. During the day tour, we stopped for lunch here. So let's stop the video there, and then let's pick up part 2 after lunch. And something, you have to think about the logic of the story you're telling and divide it into natural sections. You can't just divide it up at random, basically. Plus, now that you have 3 videos, and it's part 1, part 2, part 3 of the same video, how do you name the videos? Like, what kind of a title do you give them? How do you tell people that this is part 1? Do you put that in the video title? Do you put it in the thumbnail? Do you put it into both? And then it goes on. And then, of course, you have to have an opening. If you have one long video, you only have to do 1 opening and 1 conclusion. But if you divide it up into 3, you've made your workload times 3, because now you're doing 3 openings and 3 conclusions and 3 thumbnails and 3 titles and 3 descriptions and 3 exports, 3 uploads. Do you see what I mean? It adds a lot to the workload by the time all the dust is settled. So I did it with the Mekong Delta, and I kind of liked it. To me, it's a compromise, because as I said, if a long video is not a good idea, then you have choices. You can choose to make shorter videos, just don't make long videos anymore. Like, don't shoot a lot of video, shoot less video. Or you can shoot a lot of video, but then delete most of it and just keep the highlights. And so shoot 2 hours of video, but when you edit, get it down to 20 minutes. You can do that. That's another choice. Or the third option, you can take the long video, keep it, and just divide it into separate chunks. And for me, the separate chunks is like a compromise. I get to keep making my long journal of the day videos, but maybe I don't get penalized as much when people see that it's an hour long. They see, oh, 30 minutes, okay. People will be more willing to click on the video when they see it's 20 minutes long or 30 minutes long or 10 minutes long. An hour is a barrier to overcome. So I get to keep shooting a lot of video, but then maybe I get some benefit from making them shorter. So I did that with the Mekong Delta, and I got a fair amount of feedback for my channel, in the comments from people saying, not bad. We like this. Having shorter videos is a good idea. So that I didn't get anybody saying we hate it, but of course you can't make any conclusions based on that, because you've got the silent majority, right? That's a thing in life. Most people, you never hear from them. So if nobody said, oh, this is a terrible idea, it doesn't mean everybody thinks it's a good idea. It could mean everybody thinks it's horrible, but nobody said anything. That could be true. But anyway, it felt okay. I didn't mind doing it. And then, of course, because I'm insane, after I posted parts 1, part 2, part 3, then I put all 3 parts together and then posted the extended cut. So in fact, I posted all of them. I posted part 1, part 2, part 3, and I posted the entire hour and 15-minute long video. I did all of it. And of course, the final video, the extended full version, is not popular on YouTube. But as I've said to people who ask me about it or talking about it in the comments, I have it, so why not upload it? Do you know what I mean? The full final video didn't require time to make it because I already made it. I made the full video first, it's done, and then I divide it into thirds. So I still have the original full video on my computer, and then I have a choice. Well, I can just delete it, or it's all done. It's just sitting there, so why not export it and upload it? It's not much extra work. So that's what I did. Though there is a big argument out there that that's a very terrible idea, because that video, nobody will watch it. It won't be a popular video. And you think, well, that's fine, I don't care. But it can hurt your channel overall, because people see that video, they don't like it, now they never come back to your channel again. So there is an argument against posting videos that you know are not going to be popular. I did the same thing with a couple of 360 videos recently, because I went through the Boi Vien walking street in Saigon, and I shot with a GoPro and I shot with a 360 camera. And my idea, of course, was to take the 360 video, reframe it to normal video, and just post it like a regular video. So I was shooting with a 360 camera, but my goal was to just post regular video. But then after I did that, I still had the 360 video in actual 360 form. So I thought, well, I have it, why don't I upload it as well? So in fact, what I did a long time ago was I made a Planet Doug 360 channel. And I was just going to, anytime I had 360 video that I didn't want to delete, I just wanted to keep an archived copy of it. I made a 360 channel, and then I would just upload 360 video to that channel just to keep it there, just for my own pleasure. And then I don't have to worry about whether anybody likes it or not. I'm just keeping it for my own interest. But then this time with Boi Vien, I thought it was kind of cool. The 360 video, of course, when you watch it on YouTube, you can actually use your phone and look in any direction, because it's full 360 video. You can look at me, you can look to the side, look at the dancing girls, look at the customers. Someone goes by selling something on a cart, goes by on a motorcycle, you can actually watch them go by. You can look anywhere you want in the video, and I think that's really cool. So I uploaded my Boi Vien 360 video to the Planet Doug channel. And of course, hardly anybody watched it. Nobody cares about videos like that. And again, my logic is, well, it's kind of interesting. Why not throw it up there? Maybe a couple of people will enjoy it. What's the harm? But the harm could be, if you keep uploading videos like that, it can actually hurt your overall channel. And again, because it hurts consistency. I've heard that your channel should really try to be consistent and familiar, so that when people go to your channel, they know exactly what kind of video they're going to get. And then they become comfortable with it, and they're more likely to watch videos on your channel because they know what they're going to get. It's the old McDonald's idea, right? One reason McDonald's is so popular, or fast food in general, is that you can go to one of their outlets anywhere in the world and you get exactly the same meal. McDonald's in Malaysia, McDonald's in Canada, there's like very little difference in the basic hamburger, fries, Coke. They're all the same, no matter what country you go to, and that makes McDonald's popular. But on a YouTube channel, if you're uploading long videos, short videos, medium videos, 360 videos, you know, a whole variety of different types of videos, and you never know what Doug is going to upload next, they can end up hurting the channel because there's no familiarity. People are they don't know what your channel is about anymore. So there is an argument against just posting random things, or posting part 1, part 2, part 3, then the extended cut. That can harm your channel too, I'm told. So the next video that I divided into parts was another quite long one. I went to the Chinatown district in Saigon. It's called Cholun, and I had the chance to meet up with a couple of one Vietnamese YouTuber, Jamie, from this channel called Phil Viet Buddies. He was going to go on a tour of Chinatown with his friend Hayden, and I'd gotten to know Jamie through Daryl, through Wander Eats, Daryl in Malaysia, And so I've been in contact with Jamie, and then he invited me to come along with them, do kind of a YouTube collaboration. So yeah, that sounded really good. I wanted to go to Chinatown myself. I planned on going there, and I thought it'd be a lot of fun to meet up with Jamie and Hayden and spend the day there. So that's what I did. And we went to a lot of different places, and by the time the dust settled, I don't know, I had my usual hour and a half of video maybe. So I did my usual thing. I took all the video that I shot, put the whole thing on a timeline, edited the whole thing, put it all together like I would normally would. And then when the whole video was done, I went back and looked for a natural breaking point, and I found 2 of them. And again, I made a 3-part video. So I took an hour and a half video and divided it into 3 30-minute videos, more or less. But since I'd done it once with the Mekong Delta, I had more experience with doing it, and it went a little bit faster. And then I thought through some of the details a bit more, because one thing I realized with the Mekong Delta videos, you can call a video part 1, part 2, part 3, but you're missing some key information. You kind of also have to tell people, okay, this is part 1 of what? It's part 1 of a series, and then you have to kind of link 1 and 2 together somehow, and then you have to link 2 and 3 together somehow. How do you do that? In the thumbnail, in the description, at the end of the video? Do you put some title cards in there? I didn't do a lot of that with the Chinatown video, but I started thinking about these ideas and playing around with them. All probably pointless. I don't think anybody thinks about this very much, but I do. And then the next one was the big one. I went to the Khu Chi tunnels. I did a half-day tour, a group tour to go to the Khu Chi tunnels. And I had a ton. That video, man, that was so much work. Oh my gosh, how many days went by. It took so long to do that video. I'm still not done because I still have to do the thumbnails and things like that. Even Cholun, I haven't done the thumbnails. I'm finished the Cholun videos and the Khu Chi tunnel videos, so I have them all. But I'm still nowhere near finished with them. There's still a lot of work to do on them, but yeah, days and days went by doing this Khu Chi tunnels video, partially because I put a microphone on my tour guide. Very nice young man named Leo, and Leo did a lot of talking. We had a group, and then at many, many instances throughout the day, we would gather around him in a semicircle, his tour group, and then he would deliver a speech about something at the Khu Chi tunnels. We also went to a handicapped handicraft center designed for people who have been affected by Agent Orange, and we had another tour guide there. And I didn't have an opportunity to put a microphone on him, but he did speak on video, and then I had to basically try and put all this together. And what I ended up doing was writing out complete captions for all of the speeches from the tour guides, because to be honest, it's very difficult to understand what they were saying. I was there, and I couldn't really understand a lot of it. A lot of what my tour guide said at the Khu Chi tunnels, when I was at the tunnels, I didn't know what he said. I was listening, and all the people around me, my group, were nodding and went, oh, everyone else seemed to be understanding. But I really had missed a lot of what he was saying. And when I was editing the video, of course, I could listen to it over and over, and I started to hear things. I was like, oh, that's what he said. Oh, all the light bulbs started going off. That was pretty funny. It's like in the tour itself, I didn't know what was going on, but then when I was editing the video, suddenly I understood what he was saying. I was like, ah. But anyway, if I had that much trouble understanding him, and the information was very precise what he was trying to say, so I thought, okay. I started off thinking the main things he says, I'll just throw in a couple of captions just to clear up any misunderstandings, because I knew writing full captions would take hours. It would take endless amounts of time. So I thought, okay, there's no way I want to do that. I'll just do a little bit. I'll edit the video and I think, oh, okay, that's important. So that I should write one sentence here and one there. Just a little bit, a sprinkling of captions, just to make it clear what he's talking about. So that's what I did my first time going through. But then I went through it again and I thought, why don't we expand it? In that section that I thought was important, let's write out everything he said. So I went through the whole video again and I picked, okay, this is an important section, this is an important section, this is an important section. And I wrote the important sections out in full. I thought, let's do that. But then I woke up the next day, the next morning, and I'm working on the video again, and I came to one of the speeches that I didn't transcribe. And I thought, I've come this far, why don't we? So I didn't set out to transcribe everything he said, but by the time I finished working on the video, I did so many passes through the video, I added more and more captions. So by the time I was done, I probably transcribed 80% of everything he said on that group tour, and it took so long to do. And then the tour guide at the Handicraft Center as well. I had to mix and match because I went through with the guide, but then I went through on my own again after the tour was done, and I talked about everything on camera myself. So I had to combine things that I said with things the tour guide said, what I said, the guide said, what I said, the guide said, putting it all together. And there were so many instances where I didn't know what he said, like one word or one phrase, I couldn't make it out. And I'm playing it over and over and over. I'm looking on the internet. I'm doing word association. What could he possibly be talking about? And I'm very detail oriented. I used to do this for a living. It was part of my job in South Korea to do a lot of transcribing and proofreading and editing, and then again in Taiwan, a lot of studio work. And when you're editing, transcribing, recording in studio, everything has to be perfect. Every word, everything has to be exact. And I have that habit in my brain. So if I'm writing out a 150 word paragraph and there's one word I don't know what he said, I don't know, an hour later, I'm still trying to figure out what he said, listening to it on earphones, what could he possibly have said? Anyway, it took so long, probably a complete waste of time, but yeah, it was a big job. When you look at it in the video, you probably just accept it. Oh, Doug wrote out the captions. Oh yeah, no problem. But if you have no idea how long it takes to do work like that until you do it yourself. So days went by working on the Coochie Tunnels videos. It's crazy. Yeah, there's still a few moments in the captions where I gave up. I had no idea what the guy said. So then I just put in a few dots, like ... and, parts I didn't understand. And then I think a couple of times I put in the words I thought he said, but then I put like a question mark in brackets after the word because I think this is what he said, but I don't really know. I think the funniest one, he was talking about the tour guide about the handicapped, like the handicraft studio. They make these paintings, and he was talking about a polish that they use to shine the paintings, to polish them. And I'm pretty sure he said turtle wax, which is something I grew up with in Canada, probably still exists, a car wax. And he says, yes, we take this and lemon and this and hot water and turtle wax, and we put it all together. And I was like, turtle wax? Did he actually say turtle wax? Nah, can't be. I have such a strong image of turtle wax. I remember the bottle, the green, looks like a turtle wax. And because it's a hard shell, right? For turtles, have a hard shell, turtle wax. And I'm looking in this handicraft center all over the place, looking for a bottle of turtle wax. And I never saw one anywhere, but then I'm transcribing what he said, and I swear he said turtle wax. So I put it into the captions, then I took it out, then I put it in, then I took it out, then I put it in. I can't remember now, did I leave it in or not? But if I left it in, I would have put a question mark. It's like, I think he said turtle wax, but I can't swear to it. It just seemed like such an odd thing for someone in Vietnam to be talking about. Anyway. So, yeah, Coochie Tunnels videos, part 1, part 2, part 3. And then I did a lot more work in terms of trying to connect them. I actually know part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4. I made 4 parts out of the Coochie Tunnels. And it divided up kind of nicely, actually, different subject matters. And then for each part, I put in a coming up in this video section. So I took little clips. Probably, I think I made them way too long. I gotta shorten those, I think. But anyway, I went through the whole video, selected little highlights so that at the beginning of the video it says coming up in this video, and then little clips, and then the video starts. And I did that for part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4. So I had that at the beginning of every video, and then I thought, maybe one way to connect part 1 with part 2 is to take the coming up in part 2 section and put it in part 1 as well, so that after part 1 ends, you get to the very end of the video, and then I put in a title that says, next time in part 2, and I have all the clips. Because I've already done the work, right? I've already spent the time to put together a highlight reel coming up in part 2. I've already done it, so now I can just copy and paste it to the end of part 1. So part 1 opens with coming up in part 1, and then it ends with next time in part 2, and then the second video coming up in this video, and then it ends with next time in part 3. So I connected them all that way. Good idea, bad idea, total waste of time? I don't know, but that's what I did. I like to have things nicely organized. And then I realized, something else I can do, because I have 4 different parts. Each part has a different subject and a different title. I can include that in every video. So now what I did was, for part 1, I've got coming up in this video, that ends, and then I put in a title card. And the title card says Coochie Tunnels Tour Part 1. And then underneath it, I list the titles of all 4 parts. So part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4. So it actually has a listing of the titles of all 4 videos. This one is part 1 of 4. So then I took that title card and I put it into every video. So I did that work as well, and that took, well, I'm defrosting my freezer again. So yeah, I gotta go take care of some defrosting ice over there in my freezer. Yeah, so as I said, as I've been working on taking long videos and dividing them up into sections, I'm refining it and refining it more and more, and trying to take all of the parts and then have them connected so that you know this is part 1 of a series of 3 or a series of 4, and then one video ends, it tells you next time in the next section, and then the next one, and trying to make it more into a unit. But so yeah, that is what has been going on here on Planet Doug with one thing anyway that has been going on with video editing. Now I better go take care of my defrosting freezer. One other idea came out of the recent video editing that I've been doing, and this thought is connected to the videos from Chinatown. I went to Cholun, as I said, Saigon's Chinatown, and I met up with a Vietnamese YouTuber, Jamie, from Phil Viet Buddies. And we spent the whole day together, Jamie, Hayden, his friend, and myself. Each of us had a GoPro. I had mine, of course. Jamie had a GoPro for his YouTube channel. And then Hayden, I don't think he has a YouTube channel, but he does shoot video himself, and he also had a GoPro. So it's 3 guys wandering around Chinatown, each of us with our own GoPro. That was quite amusing. But while I was editing the video, I kept thinking I didn't take advantage of Jamie's presence. And this thought is coming out of watching some other YouTube videos recently, other travel videos, particularly here in Vietnam. And these are popular, much more popular than I am, but popular YouTubers. And one of the things they tend to do, which I don't do as a rule, is have sort of random conversations with people all the time. And I'll talk about this a lot more when I get to the YouTube section of this behind the scenes video. But anyway, these YouTubers talk to a lot of people. And then going through Cholun with Jamie, Jamie speaks English and he speaks fluent Vietnamese, of course. And it occurred to me that at no point did I use him to be able to talk to anyone. So for example, you go around a place like Chinatown, you're going to be visiting a lot of markets because Chinatowns tend to be very bustling with a lot of buying and selling. There's a fabric market here, a hardware market there, a medicinal market here. There's just a lot of buying and selling going on. That's what happens in Chinatown. And we walked up and down all of these places. So for example, we walked through the fabric district, and their store after store after store after store was filled with big bolts of fabric. But at no point did I talk to any of the owners of the fabric store. And that would be normal most of the time because I don't speak Vietnamese, they won't speak English. But in this case, I had Jamie with them. So I was editing the video and I went, oh, such a dummy. I should have said to Jamie at some point, hey, can we just pop inside for a second and could we ask the owner of the store a couple of questions? And then I could have used Jamie as a translator, as an interpreter, and just asked them about their shop. How long have you run this store? Is it a family business? Tell me about this fabric and that fabric. Do you sell it wholesale, retail? Whatever questions would come up. And then we went through an alleyway that's famous in Saigon, in Chinatown, because they sell herbal remedies, like Chinese medicine. Fascinating alleyway to walk through. But I should have, looking back, it would have been more interesting for me, more interesting for the video if I'd said to Jamie, oh, can we talk with one of these guys? Like, we saw all this stuff for sale everywhere, and Jamie and I walked through it, and I'm pointing my GoPro everywhere and going, oh, we're walking through the herbal medicine alleyway. Look how interesting it is. But at no point did I stop and take a close look at any of the products and ask them about what they were selling. And I could have done that because Jamie was with me. And this same theme goes on and on and on. I never really took advantage of Jamie being there. And I thought, oh, I really should have done that. But it never occurred to me at the time. And I think one of the reasons it never occurred to me is that it seemed presumptuous. If perhaps Jamie was just taking me on a tour by himself, it probably would have occurred to me. But he's also a YouTuber and he's shooting his own video. So I didn't really want to interfere with what he was doing. And I think that is what held me back. So it probably made sense that I didn't ask him to translate for me and help me interview a bunch of people because, yeah, he has his own YouTube channel. It's not his job. I didn't ask him or pay him or make a point of asking him, hey, when we go to Cholun, would you come along and be my interpreter for the day? We didn't have that arrangement in advance. We basically went there. The arrangement was we're both YouTubers and let's go shoot video together. So it felt like it would have been an imposition to suddenly ask him to translate for me all day long. So I didn't do it. And the other side of it is also camera gear. This is something I talk about quite a bit, and it's a little bit of a pet peeve of mine where you hear people pronouncing this as if it's true. They always say, camera gear doesn't matter. It's the photographer, it's the videographer, that it doesn't matter what camera you have. But in my opinion, it matters very much what camera you have. And I'm not thinking in terms of quality. Obviously, a better camera shoots better video. It just does. But there's a certain type of camera that you can use in close quarters. So if, say, for example, you go into a fabric store, which is quite small, the shelves on all sides are piled high with big bolts of fabric. There isn't a lot of room to move around. And now you've got me, Jamie, and the store owner, and I'm trying to interview the store owner. Where do I aim the camera? I'm holding a GoPro, and then it's like, it feels rude to just point it in somebody's face. And then I've got to film Jamie, film the store owner, film me. Somehow it's very difficult to do something like that with a GoPro. And then another camera, for example, like a good 360 camera, that may have made a situation like that better, because then you can just hold the 360 camera off to the side, just forget about it. You don't have to look at it, you don't have to point it, and then you just talk. And then when you're editing the video, then you can aim the camera in different directions based on who was speaking and things like that. So, yeah, I often think about that. The type of camera you have does affect the way you shoot video. And I've often thought about I'm always thinking about the classic, the Sony X3000, the camera that Bald and Bankrupt uses, a lot of these big famous YouTubers use, and I'm very jealous of them in a way that they developed this style, that they started using the X3000, and that's the only camera they ever used. They never went into the painful rabbit holes that I've gone down over the years trying to find a camera and a microphone that works, always trying to figure out technology. And a guy like Bald and Bankrupt, he's got the X3000. He gets good audio from the built-in mic, and because it has stabilization built into the lens, it doesn't crop in, so the wide-angle lens is really wide. And he just basically, because if he's in a tight area inside a small shop, I've noticed he can just sort of hold the camera off to the side, and it's such a wide field of view that it takes in everybody naturally, and the audio is good enough to pick up everybody's voice. But in my case, with my GoPro and Rode Wireless Go, I really have to set things up in advance. But with something like the X3000, I think you can capture much more candid conversations just because of the wide angle and the high quality microphone, the simplicity of the camera. So, yeah. It's too bad Sony never kept that camera line going. I mean, the X3000 now is quite outdated, of course. The video quality is very poor compared to most other cameras, and it doesn't have a screen. You can't do video playback. It has so many limitations. But still, it's a pretty amazing camera. But if they'd made a Sony X4000, where they maybe added a screen, a playback screen at a minimum, and improved the video quality a little bit, man, that would be an amazing little camera. And they're not waterproof, of course. You have to put them inside a case for it to be waterproof and things like that. So there are limitations, but still. Feels like a camera like that or a camera like an X3000 would be more useful for interviewing people in close and tight quarters. So yeah, that's what I was thinking about when I was editing the Chodlin video. Next time, I'll think more about using people around me to be able to talk to people. I used to have a regular section in my behind-the-scenes videos where I would talk about other YouTube channels that I've come across, mainly travel vloggers, things like that. I tend to watch other travel videos not because I enjoy them so much, but because I like to see how other people travel, how they think, what they do, how they shoot video, what their channel is like, that sort of thing. So I kind of watch these other YouTube channels just to see how they shoot their videos, and can I learn anything from them, and also it helps me see myself more clearly at the same time. But I've been so busy since I came to Vietnam that I just haven't been doing that anymore. But I thought I would pick up that old habit today, and I'm going to start with a classic. Back in the bad old days of behind the scenes, I talked about videos from Paddy Doyle quite a bit, because Paddy Doyle was in my neck of the woods. He was shooting videos in Thailand and countries like that. So I would watch a lot of the Paddy Doyle videos and talk about them at length. Haven't done that for a while, but this time, yeah, I've got some thoughts because I'm here in Vietnam. Because last year or a year and a half ago, I can't remember how long it was, Paddy Doyle came to Vietnam. And this was sort of just after all of the borders opened up again. So things were not as easygoing as they are now. So for example, he could only get a 30-day visa for Vietnam. Now you can get a 90-day visa, which makes a huge difference. But I guess he could only get a 30-day visa, and he had a big project in mind. His idea was to ride a scooter all the way from the north of Vietnam all the way to the south. And he always likes to do the extreme. So from the northernmost tip all the way down to the southernmost tip. And then he was going to document it on video, and that was going to be his Vietnam series. And when he came out with that series, as far as I remember, I watched all of them. And I didn't really enjoy them. He's not, the way he shoots video and the things he does and his overall style doesn't really mesh with things that interest me. But I do find him interesting because his videos are so popular and they seem so relatively easy to make, and he makes so much money. So of course I'm watching his videos thinking, man, I can learn something from this guy. So that's why and how I'm watching his videos from that perspective. But anyway, I watched his Vietnam series, and I had a memory of him having a lot of trouble in Vietnam. Things didn't really go well. He seemed to be out of sorts and not having a very good time. And I just had this memory of that. But I couldn't really understand a lot of it because I hadn't been to Vietnam recently myself. I'd been here back, as I've often talked about, 30 years ago. I came to Vietnam for a short trip, and that was my only experience in Vietnam, and I hardly went anywhere or did anything back then. So most of the places where Paddy Doyle went in his videos, I didn't know anything about them, so I couldn't really understand the context. And I find I'm very, very poor at figuring things out unless I go there myself. If I read articles, watch videos about a place, I tend not to be able to understand really what it is that place. I don't really understand that place until I go there myself. But now that I've been in Vietnam a little bit, Saigon area, I went down to the Mekong Delta a little bit, up here to Dalat. Those are the only places I've been so far. But it happens to overlap with a little bit of Paddy Doyle's experiences. And there's one video just popped up in my Google feed where he went on a boat tour in the Mekong Delta. And the video was about that. And I remembered that video. It was like, oh yeah, I remember that. And I remember being a little bit confused by it the first time I watched it. But again, I had no context at all. And in my mind, what I thought I knew, it's like, okay, Mekong Delta. And I thought of the Mekong Delta as this vast, empty wilderness. Nothing but mangrove swamps and rivers, and very wild and untouched and difficult to get around, and not many people there. So very natural and a difficult area to explore. That was my image of the Mekong Delta. So Paddy Doyle's video, the first time I watched it, that's where I thought he was going. And then I didn't understand where he went exactly, the exact details, but I guess he paid for a boat tour. And in my mind, I thought he was way off in the remotest, wildest area, and he was in a village, and then he got a local guy to take him on a boat deep into the delta, and there'd be alligators and wildlife, and it would be that. I thought that was the environment. And then in the video, of course, well, not of course, but in the video, he was extremely negative. I think the original title of the video was something about how everybody in the Mekong Delta was scamming him. It was the boat trip was a big scam, and everybody was ripping him off. And in the video, it was nothing but negativity all the way through. He hated everything they were doing. He made it sound like he paid for a tour, and then he didn't get what he paid for. And it was a very negative thing. And he just quit his journey at that point. He was supposed to go all the way down to the southern tip of Vietnam, and then that would be the end of his journey. But he had such a miserable experience on this boat tour that he just quit at that point. He said, I'm not even going to bother. I'm in such a bad mood. I don't want to ride my scooter all the way down another 400 kilometers. I'm just going to quit right here, go back to Saigon, sell my scooter, and leave the country. So the whole thing was very negative, and as I said, he thought he was being scammed, and he was really upset, and he just hated everything about the experience overall. So that was my memory of that video, and then it popped up. So I thought, let's watch this again, and this time it was completely different because I knew exactly where he went. I knew exactly what the boat tour was all about, and I could see everything so clearly because, I mean, he doesn't give a lot of details in his videos. He doesn't show any of the logistics, so I don't know how he signed up for the boat tour. I don't know how he paid. I don't know where he was when he did it, but he was basically in the city of Can Tho, and in Can Tho, the main thing you do is you go to the floating market. In Can Tho, it's very common, extremely popular, extremely crowded, very busy, this whole idea of going there for the weekend, and you pile into these boats and you go on a boat trip up the river to the floating market. And then up there you have some noodles and some coffee and go on a tour. Usually the tour will take you to the floating market and then 2 more places. You might go to 2 different farms, and they show you how they make the local products and then things like that. It's very organized, very established, and thousands of people do it every single weekend. It's just it's not much different than going to Disneyland. It's an organized tourist attraction that everybody understands exactly what they're doing. Anyway, I went to Can Tho and I stayed there for 10 days. I stayed in the city of Can Tho for 10 days, and towards the end of my time there, I signed up for the floating market boat trip. And it was sort of an impulse thing. It wasn't something that I spent a lot of time organizing. But while I was there, of course, I was aware of the floating market tours. Hundreds, thousands on the weekend, hundreds of people every day, every morning, pile into these big tour boats, and they all put on their little orange life vests, and you've got a tour guide at the front of the boats giving a speech into a microphone, and then you ride the boat up the river to the floating market, and then they take you to another place, and you buy some souvenirs, and then you take the boat back to the dock, and there's your tour to the floating market. There's nothing mysterious about it. And I did it, and after my experience and after my 10 days in that area, I knew a lot about it. So now, when I watched Paddy Doyle's video, I saw it in a totally different light. And I was like, And his video seemed even more strange to me after my experience, because I know what the tour is about. And I can't imagine, I wish I knew more of the details about what Paddy thought he was signing up for, because he seemed to have certain ideas. And there was a time he was on the boat. He had a private boat, which amazed me as well, because the video opens with him riding his scooter pretty much in the dark. It's early in the morning, before sunrise, I think, and that's normal for this sort of trip to the floating market. And then he said, I have no idea where I am, I don't know what's going on, and he parked his scooter, and then he went down to the river shore, and there was a small boat, like not one of the big tourist boats that I'm talking about, but it was a small boat, and one person, I think a woman, was running the boat, and that was his boat. Private boat for him. He was the only passenger on the boat, and I guess he paid 250,000 dong for this tour. And then when he was on the boat, he was very unhappy with where they were going and what they were doing, and he couldn't talk to the woman. She didn't speak English, and he doesn't speak Vietnamese, and he was trying to tell her that, like, what are we doing here? Why did we go here? This is not what I wanted to do. And he took out his phone and he started showing her all these photographs from other people who went to the Mekong Delta. And I guess they were beautiful, lush rivers and jungles and mangrove swamps and gorgeous natural scenery. And he was showing this to her, going like, well, can we go here? Why don't we go here? This is where we should be going. And the poor woman, of course, had no idea what he was talking about, because, as I said, it's a pretty standard thing. You get in one of these boats, and the boat goes upriver, and there's a lot of tour boats, and they all go to the same place, and you have your noodles, and then they take you to the shore, and you go to like a souvenir shop, and you can buy some souvenirs, and then you go to some sort of a farm. So in the woman's mind, the woman who was taking him on the boat tour, she had, okay, this is where we go here, then we go here, then we go here. But Paddy didn't seem to have any idea what he had signed up for. He didn't know what the tour was. Yeah, the whole thing was very, very strange. And he was very upset with it, made a big stink about it with the woman, and he talked a lot about it on the video. I think he toned it down a little bit. I think he changed the video title, because he did get some feedback from foreigners like me who have been to Vietnam and who have done that boat tour, who were basically telling him, like, we don't know, why are you complaining about, she wasn't scamming you. There was no scam here. You're the one that made all the mistakes. You misunderstood everything. You had no idea what you were doing, what you had signed up for. All the problems, all the misunderstandings were coming from you, not from them. Nobody was trying to rip you off. So he did get some comments like that, not very many. I think most of the people who left comments, like me back in those days, hadn't been to Vietnam, hadn't been to Canton, didn't know about the floating market tour. So they just sort of took Paddy's word for it, that these people were scamming him, and that he was getting a lot of support in the comments. But people who knew better were leaving comments saying, like, nobody was scamming you, so relax. So I think he took that out of the video title. I think he changed the video title and things like that. But the main video itself is still the same as the original. But again, I just found it so interesting to watch that whole experience and understand it so well now. When I first watched the video, I didn't understand it at all. But now that I've been there myself, I could see his videos, like, ah, that's what was going on. Now I get it. Now I understand. And that was quite funny. But yeah, he didn't have a good time in Vietnam. I don't think I watched the whole video, but at the end of his Vietnam trip, he did kind of a behind-the-scenes style video. I really enjoy those, where he just sits down and just talks about the experience overall. And then that video that he posted was about all the mistakes that I made in Vietnam. And I don't think I watched the whole video, but he did say a couple of interesting things. One mistake he made, he said, was going from the north to the south. Because the north, if you go to the standard tourism areas like the Ha Giang Loop, that's what most foreigners that most foreigners, when they see beautiful scenery in Vietnam, that's where they see it, and that ends up being the highlight. So he started, is what he was saying, he started at the best part of Vietnam, the most beautiful, the most scenic, the most impressive, and then everything was downhill after that, because he was going from north to south, and as you head down to the south, you get into a lot of highways with tons and tons of truck traffic, and then the Saigon area. It's very bustling and commercial and business oriented, and you do get the ocean, of course. You're going along beautiful oceans and things like that, beaches. But he felt like he started at the best part of Vietnam, and then everything went downhill from there. So he says, if you're going to go to Vietnam and do this trip, start in the south and go north, and then you're building up to the North Vietnamese mountains, the Ha Giang Loop, and that will end up being the highlight. He also said he went there at the wrong time of year because it was school holidays, and everywhere he went, everything was jammed, everything was really crowded, because all the students were off and all the families, the Vietnamese, were going on tours all around the country themselves. So when he went to the big tourist attractions in places like Da Nang, I guess, is it in Da Nang? I think in Da Nang there's that famous bridge up in the hills, and it has sculpted hands as the support for the bridge. And he went there because you're supposed to go there as a YouTuber. He went there, but the bridge was so crowded he could barely even move, and it was all very, very touristy, very developed, and it didn't really fit into his next level adventures philosophy for his YouTube channel. So he complained a lot about that. But he said, yeah, he made the mistake of going during school holidays, and you shouldn't do that. And I think that's all I remember from that video, but yeah. So anyway, I'm probably going to go back now that I've spent some time in Vietnam. I'll watch more of his videos. I'm curious because I think I can understand them a lot better now that I've got my own experience here. Another YouTuber, a YouTube vlogger, travel vlogger that I discovered lately has been quite interesting for me. It's an American originally from New York City, now living in Florida, and his channel is called the Barefoot Vlogger. And I came across him, of course, because he came to Vietnam. He could be in Vietnam right now, as far as I know. So yeah, I've watched a few of his videos, and I have some thoughts about them. He's, for a YouTube travel vlog, he's pretty popular, far more popular than my videos, and he's very casual. He's one of these guys, he fits into a lot of my pet peeves. I have my own personal pet peeves about a lot of the language that you come across. For example, solo. Everybody puts in their video titles, solo through the most dangerous slum of Lima. And this always annoys me. I'm always joking about the word solo, and I should describe my life that way. I was just in my bathroom brushing my teeth solo. I just went to Starbucks and had a cup of coffee solo. As if being by yourself is some huge achievement. And I don't know, maybe for people with a different experience of life, maybe, for all I know, I get the impression that the Barefoot Vlogger hasn't really gone overseas before. Yeah, I think he went to Cuba, and then he went from Cuba to Thailand and then Vietnam, I think. And I don't get the impression that he's had a lifetime of experiences overseas. I could be wrong about that, but it feels like all of this is new to him. So maybe someone coming from that background, you're living in the United States, you've never really gone anywhere, nobody you know has ever gone anywhere, and then you tell your friends, hey, you know what? Next month, I'm flying to Thailand, and I'm going to go to Vietnam. His friends would probably be, whoa, you're going by yourself? And he'll say, yeah, I'm just going to go there. Whoa, that's amazing. So maybe from that perspective, going solo to Vietnam is actually something quite special. But everyone in my life, people that I know in my own life, going somewhere solo is not exactly unusual. That's just living, isn't it? So I tend to make fun of people that use the word solo a lot. And I have a pet peeve about everybody talking about the real Saigon, getting off the beaten path. And everybody always tries to make a distinction between themselves and tourists. They say, well, you know me, I don't like to do the touristy things. I like to get off the beaten path, hang out with the locals, meet the real people, go to the real Saigon. And I have very little patience for that approach as well. Again, because to me, everything is real. What is the real Vietnam? People have a certain idea about that, but I mean, the real Vietnam is whatever you find in Vietnam. I spent a lot of time in Saigon, and I went to all kinds of different neighborhoods, and because of the people that I knew there, the things I was doing, I went to a lot of pretty fancy coffee shops. And Saigon is jammed with modern, fancy, luxurious coffee shops. They are packed. There's Highlands, Wayne's, Starbucks, on and on and on, all over the city, and all of them are jammed with Vietnamese people, young people, very well-dressed, well-educated, well-spoken, sitting there with their iPhones and their iPads and their laptops and busy working and studying. That's the real Vietnam. It's very modern and just the same as every other country around the world with a young population like that. So, but if you go to, say, Highlands Coffee, and people will say, oh, why are you spending all your time at Highlands Coffee? You should go to the real Vietnam. And my argument is, well, that is real Vietnam. That's the year 2024. The majority of people in Saigon, this is how they live. In your mind, you might be thinking the real Vietnam is people in conical hats, planting rice in the fields, barefoot, using a bullock to pull a plow. Sure, that is also part of life in Vietnam, a traditional agricultural lifestyle out in the countryside, but that's no more real than the law student at Starbucks writing up a paper on his $3,000 laptop. That's also real Vietnam. It's all real Vietnam, so give me a break with all this. Oh, I only go to the real Vietnam. I get off the beaten track. But maybe it's sour grapes, all of my pet peeves, because the Barefoot vlogger, the last video I watched from him, he started off talking exactly like this. He was talking into his camera and he said something about, oh, you guys know me. I don't like to do the touristy things. I don't go where other people go. I like to go to, I like to go off the beaten path, and today I'm going to do this. And then he went walking around Saigon. His idea was to walk along the railroad tracks, and he wanted to see the real Saigon because that would be walking along the railroad tracks, apparently. But then in the comments, you get hundreds of comments just telling him what a hero he is. Oh, it's so amazing. You're so brave. It's incredible what you do, wandering around there. And I'm like, I do that every day. Like, nobody ever tells me I'm a hero. I mean, to me, it's nothing unusual. You're in another country, and particularly if you're interested in photography or shooting video or exploring. I know tons of people. Everybody I know does this. We all just wake up in the morning and grab our cameras and we go walking. We go walking through the alleyways, through the markets. There's nothing unusual about doing that. There's nothing special. But you do get this certain type of travel vlog. It's like, I'm better than everyone else. I'm not a tourist, I'm a traveler. And I go off the beaten path, and I go out to see the real Saigon. I was like, yeah, okay, whatever. I've been there too, and it's fun, but you don't have to be so full of yourself. But again, for someone like the Barefoot vlogger, I do get the impression that a lot of this is new to him. And I'm kind of jealous of him from that point of view, because it feels like everything he's seeing is brand new and exciting to him. And it shows in the way he's speaking and in his videos. And so, for example, he'll go walking down an alleyway, just a typical alleyway here in Vietnam, and he'll see an entrance to a house or a business, and there will be 2 scooters parked inside. And from my point of view, I wouldn't even notice, because, well, yeah, scooters, they park them in the living room, they park them in the dining room, scooters are just everywhere. It wouldn't even occur to me to point it out. But he's walking down the alley and he sees a house that has a scooter parked pretty much in the hallway. He's like, whoa, look at that. Oh, that's so amazing. They have the scooters right inside the house. And so he's seeing all these things for the very first time that I think of as quite normal. And I am kind of jealous of that. And I often wonder what it would be like if I been shooting video the first time I went anywhere. You pick a country around the world. Before I had any experience traveling at all, I think I was just as amazed at everything. But now, I don't know, I'm kind of jaded, I suppose. Everything I do, I've done before. It's oddly enough, recently, the new experiences that have been exciting for me are the exact experiences that the Barefoot vlogger would poo-poo, because, as I've said many times, I went on the group tour to the Mekong Delta and then the group tour to the Cu Chi tunnels, and that's exactly what the Barefoot vlogger would, he's just a tourist. But for me, they're brand new experiences because I've never gone on group tours before, which is kind of funny. So all the new experiences that he's having now, when he's in his 40s, maybe 50s, I'm not sure how old he is, I had those feelings when I was in my teens and 20s. Going to India for the first time when I guess I was 19, and then it was like, boom, my mind was blown. And had I had a GoPro back in those days, I would have been wandering around in a daze going, whoa, look at this, this is incredible, this is amazing, I've never seen anything like this before. But if I go to India now, I'm probably not going to bring that level of excitement because I've seen it all before. These things don't amaze me anymore. They're just day-to-day life. But for me, going on a group tour, that's kind of new and exciting because I've never done it before. So that's kind of odd, where patterns are completely flipped around. So yeah, Barefoot vlogger is interesting, but I have a question, an honest question about his behavior. Is it good or bad? I really do wonder about this, because I wonder if I'm just too uptight. Because he is a little bit like the stereotypical boorish Westerner that goes to another country and just expects everybody to speak English and expects everything to be catered to his particular culture or perspective. And in a way, it works out well for him because he's a YouTuber. So, for example, he landed at the airport and then he took a taxi from the airport to his hotel. And when he was in the taxi, he had his camera out and then he just started babbling at the taxi driver in English. So like there was no preamble, there was none. I'm very shy about that kind of stuff. I don't want to assume that anyone speaks English. I don't want to force them. I don't want to put them in a position where I'm making them speak to me in English. So I probably wouldn't speak to the taxi driver that way. And if I did, I'd probably start with Google Translate. I'd type something out, ask him a question, and then maybe if he says something to me in English, I'll think, okay, so he's a little bit comfortable. Then I might say something in English, or I might ask for permission first. It's like, I'm sorry, I don't speak Vietnamese. Can I ask you a question in English? And then if he looks uncomfortable and he's like, no English, then I leave him alone. But the Barefoot vlogger, for one thing, he's a New Yorker, and New Yorkers are big and loud, and they're larger than life, most New Yorkers in my experience. So he has no problem just getting in the taxi, and he's got his camera running. He aims it at the taxi driver. Hey, what's your name? Oh yeah, how long have you been? He just starts babbling in English right out of the gate and has this big conversation with the taxi driver. So that kind of works well for his video. But I do wonder, okay, is that rude to just out of nowhere just run up to a person and just start talking to them in English? And he makes no attempt to speak slowly. He doesn't try to be clear. He just speaks like a New Yorker, fast-paced. And even in the video, sometimes I'm having trouble understanding what he's saying because I don't have the context of what's in his brain. He just launches into something, and I'm like, what is he asking about? It takes me a while to catch up. And the poor Vietnamese people, they're like, we have no idea what you're talking about. But that wasn't the first example that I wanted to talk about. The first one was that night, the night of his arrival, he had it in his head that he wanted to go out and get something to eat, and he wanted to get banh mi, I guess. He'd heard about banh mi. It's famous in Vietnam. And then he went to this, he was in District 1. I recognized everything in his video, so it was a lot of fun for me. Everywhere he went, I know all the streets and all the restaurants and all the alleyways. And then he went to this corner place, a very busy sort of outdoor restaurant where they serve pho. And from my point of view, these places are incredible because I've had the experience in most countries of having difficulty communicating in restaurants because there's no information. There's going to be no menu, no pictures, nothing in English, no prices. You don't know what to order. You don't know the system. But a lot of places here in Vietnam, like this restaurant, they're really well organized and really well organized for foreigners. So from my perspective, that's an amazing little restaurant. It's very local. I'm not talking about a fancy place, just a local outdoor, mainly Vietnamese people there. A couple of backpacker types, but not many. And then he sits down at a table, and as soon as he sits down, the servers come over and they start putting things on his table. The big plate of leaves, everybody gets a big plate of leaves for their pho. They bring him the menu. The menu is a big laminated thing, photographs of all the different types of pho with English names, Vietnamese names, prices. Nothing could be easier. So I love those places, and I love this level of organization. You just go in, you sit down, you look at the menu, the waiter, the server, whoever it is comes over, and you point at the one you want, and then the guy might say something like, spicy, not spicy? That's the one question they always ask a foreigner, and you can say, not spicy, and off you go, and you know how much it costs. The pho comes to your table, you dump all the leaves in. It's amazing. But he left from that restaurant complaining about it, saying the service was terrible, everything about it was bad. He liked the food, but he sat down at the table, and then a man came up, the server came up to his table, and he just started in English. And he wanted to know whether he could get things like spring rolls or banh mi. And he just started speaking in English at the guy, very fast, very colloquial English. Hey, you guys got any spring rolls? Can I get spring rolls here? What about banh mi? If you got banh mi, I wouldn't mind getting a banh mi. And the guy's like staring at him, doesn't know what he's saying. But the Vietnamese server didn't smile, didn't have any kind of reaction. And I'm thinking, well, why should he? There's your menu. This is what we make here. Just point at a picture and I'll go get you some pho. It's pretty simple. But then he kept talking about how he wanted a banh mi, and then the guy was sort of walking away, and I think he spoke to somebody else. I can't remember all the stages of this, but yeah, he was just speaking loudly in English to all these people all around him, all the servers, and asking about banh mi. Oh, can I get a meat banh mi? You got banh mi? Oh, you do have banh mi? Okay, I'll have meat. You have meat? Meat? Oh, and spring roll? Do you have spring roll? And nobody knows what he's saying. And then he complained about the poor service afterward. And in the comments, everybody kind of agreed with him that, oh, that waiter was so unfriendly. And I'm thinking, I don't know. It looked like a great place to me. A waiter does not have to be your best friend. It's nice if somebody is smiling and friendly, but it wasn't that kind of place. This place was like moving fast, popular, serve quickly. They're all about efficiency. I know these restaurants. I eat in them all the time. So anyway, I was wondering about that behavior, just speaking in English. And I go, you got to cut him some slack because he just arrived. I know now where you get banh mi. When I first arrived in Vietnam, I probably didn't even know either, but I'm not going to sit down at a restaurant where it's a pho restaurant. They give me a menu, nothing but pho. Now I'm not going to start asking for spring rolls and banh mi. I've kind of got the place figured out, but he seemed to have trouble getting to that conclusion. And then later on in that video, or maybe the next day, he came across banh mi places at the side of the road, like a stall. And he's like, oh, banh mi, okay, this is where you get banh mi. But again, his whole attitude, the way he was speaking to people in the restaurant, seemed a bit abrupt and a bit presumptuous to try, just to expect everyone to know what he's talking about in English. So that is my question. Is that good or bad behavior? Is that rude, or am I just being very uptight? And the other example came in a different video. I think it was in the railroad video. He's trying to find the railroad, and he found himself in a park. And inside the park was a big statue, big elaborate statue. And he's shooting video talking about it. And he said, oh, I wish I knew what that statue was about. And then he turned to the camera and said, if anybody knows, put it down in the comments. Which is, I'm so petty. That's another little bit of a pet peeve of mine. It just seems so lazy. I see YouTubers do it all the time. Maybe, I don't think I've done it. If I have done it, it's only because I've seen it done so often. The pattern might get beaten into your head, but it's not something I would normally do if I'm out there and I'm looking at something and I don't know what it is. Well, I'm going to go find out what it is. I'm going to look it up on the internet. It seems really lazy as a YouTuber just to wander around a foreign country and say, oh, I wonder what this is. If you guys know, put it in the comments. And then you point your camera at a sign. I don't know what that sign says. If any of you guys know, just put it in the comments. And they keep telling their viewers, put it in the comments. Tell me what this is. Put it in the comments. It always seems very lazy to me. Look it up yourself. We've got Google. And even Google has tools that I often forget about that are so powerful, like Google Lens, where if you don't know what something is, you don't even have to know what it's called. You just turn on Google Lens and aim your phone camera at it, and it will analyze the picture and then will tell you what it is. It's pretty amazing how well that works. Anyway, so he's in the park. He told people, oh, what is that statue? Let me know in the comments. And then he saw this older man there, not elderly, but middle-aged man, local guy. I can't remember how he was dressed now, but he was dressed like a laborer. He wasn't in a suit and tie or anything. He wasn't like a university student. It's just a guy that obviously works outside. Maybe he works in the park, I'm not sure. And then he just went barreling up to this guy and spoke to him in English very quickly again and asked him, what is this statue? Do you know what this statue is? And of course, the poor guy looked at him like, I have no idea what you're talking about. And then the Barefoot vlogger just kind of doubled down, tried to explain more slowly, but using body language, like, this statue, do you know, what is it? What is? And even if the guy knew what he was saying and even knew what the statue was, how would he even explain it to him? The whole thing just seemed like, why are you badgering this poor guy? He doesn't speak English. He doesn't know what you're saying. He's a very friendly guy, obviously, but it just seems weird to me just to go wandering around the streets talking to everyone in English and expecting them to understand you. And he even tripled down. He doubled down and then he tripled down because he happened to have a big necklace with a medallion on it that had an image of the Buddha on it. So he thought, oh, I can use this. He wanted to know if the statue was of the Buddha. Like, is that a Buddha statue? That's what he's asking the guy. Is that Buddha? Same? Is that the same? Is that a Buddha statue? And then he took his necklace and showed it to the guy and pointed at the Buddha image and then at the statue. It's like, Is it that statue? Is that Buddha? Is it the same? And of course, the guy doesn't know what the word same is in English. He doesn't know what the guy's asking him. All he sees is this foreigner walked up to him and put a Buddha in front of him, like shoved it in his face. And then the guy, of course, bowed to the Buddha image and folded his hands together out of respect for the Buddha. And when I saw that, I was like, oh, for Pete's sake. Of course, I mean, you're walking up to this man you don't know, and you're putting a Buddha in front of him and talking to him, and of course, he's going to bow to the Buddha and fold his hands. And the poor Vietnamese guy must be wondering, what is going on here? So that was another example. And the third one, same video, he's trying to find the railroad station, the railroad tracks, hasn't found it yet, and he wanted to get something to drink. And as he said, he needed something for courage. He wasn't looking for water, but he heard about some kind of a local alcohol, a rice wine or something. And he heard the name of it, a local special drink, alcoholic drink, and that's what he wanted. And he knew the name, he thought he knew the name of it. So he could say the name in English. I forget what it was. Like, let's just say it was something like Rakau. It was something similar to that with an R, Rakau, or something like that. And that's what he wanted.
Rượu cần. Rượu cần.
And then he happened to be standing near a store that sold like buckets, like plastic containers and wicker baskets, like all household goods. And there was a woman, a clerk, sales clerk, standing at the entrance to this household buckets and wicker basket store, and he just went walking up to her. So I'm Rakau, do you have Rakau? Do you know where I can get some Rakau? I'd like to, and he's making a drinking motion and speaking to her really quickly. Rakau, do you sell Rakau? And again, I'm thinking, why are you doing this? The woman is not going to speak English, and obviously they don't sell liquor. Why would you go up to a wicker basket, plastic bucket store and think you're going to get a traditional local alcoholic drink? Like, I'm not quite sure what's going on. Anyway, she was just befuddled. It's like, I have no idea what you're talking about. And then he just started babbling at other people around him on the street, other stores. Rakau, do you have Rakau? Do you know where I can get some Rakau? And I'm thinking, why are you doing this? And then somebody pointed at another store. You can go here, go here. People were trying to help him because he kept making drinking motions. So they thought, oh, he must want something to drink. And they pointed him to a store that sells water and Coke and various drinks. And he goes in there, Rakau, you have Rakau, you have Rakau, you have Rakau. And the store clerk just ran away from him. He was like, I have no idea what you're talking about. So anyway, that's as far as I've gotten with his videos. And then again, that is my question. I would, personally, obviously, I would never do any of those things. The logic seems off to me. Even if you want to know where to buy this local liquor, thinking you even know how to pronounce the Vietnamese word, that's a stretch. I know that if I say a Vietnamese word, nobody's going to know what I'm talking about anyway. So again, I'm going to go to Google Translate and type it out and get a picture of it. And then maybe I'll look for a store that looks like they sell alcoholic drinks, and I'll go in there and show the guy the picture. Do you type out and do you sell this drink here? But again, this gets back to my issues with sort of YouTube in general. All of these behaviors that I find a little bit odd end up making perhaps an entertaining video. People really enjoy his videos. They find them fun, and people will watch one of his videos and then they want to watch the next one because it's entertaining. They want to see what he's going to get up to next. And then I always feel a little bit, I can't do any of that stuff. So I can never be entertaining in the same way that these guys are entertaining. My natural instincts is just not to behave that way. So anyway, that is the Barefoot vlogger. And yeah, his videos are fun. He's got good on-camera presence. He's got charisma. He's got style. New Yorker. He's very brash, larger than life, as I said. So yeah, entertaining. So I'll probably watch a couple more of his videos and see what he's been up to. Another YouTube travel story in Vietnam caught my eye the other day. And this was from a YouTuber, I think he's from Australia, a young guy. He has a background in Vietnam, so his family originally was from Vietnam, I think. So he speaks really good Vietnamese as far as I can tell. I'm no judge, but he speaks Vietnamese. And so he came to Vietnam and he wanted to do a scooter, the classic scooter journey from Saigon up to the north. And I haven't really been watching his videos. Again, he doesn't have a style that really appeals to me. He's a young guy and full of energy, and it's not something I would watch for enjoyment, his kind of travel video. It's not really my style. But there's something, just the fact that he's in Vietnam, the fact that he's traveling by scooter. I'm sort of interested in the logistics, so I'll check in with him from time to time, see where he is, what he's up to, and skim through one of his videos. But his latest one that I saw, he didn't get robbed. He lost his money pouch. And according to the video title and the description and the opening, it was a big disaster. So I thought, this is interesting. I want to find out what the story is. So I did watch that video in full. It's a very short one. It's like not even 10 minutes long, I don't think, maybe 15 at the most, not even that long. But I guess he was on his way to Da Nang. He's on his scooter. He's making the journey north. And I guess he wasn't having a good day. And then he got a flat tire. And he's riding along. He kept riding on the flat tire. He wanted to find a place where it could be repaired. So he just kept riding until he got to a town. He looked for a mechanic shop on Google Maps and found one a few kilometers ahead. And so he rode his scooter there. And he pulled up in this place. And they were going to work on his scooter and fix the flat tire. And then while he was there, it dawned on him that what he calls his bum bag, we call them in Canada, I guess, a fanny pack. I've never liked the name bum bag. It just seems somewhat vulgar. So I'll call it a fanny pack. He had a fanny pack, and that's where he kept everything. So that he had his passport, his credit cards, his bank cards, $1,000 Australian, so all his money, all his documents, everything of importance was in the fanny pack. And then he was at this place waiting for them to fix his motorcycle, to fix the flat tire, and he realized it was just gone. He didn't have it anymore. So his story overall is one of those videos, I almost wish I didn't watch it because I find it so frustrating when it comes to storytelling. I'm hyper-focused on details. I want to know how things happened, the order in which they happened, why they happened. I need the whole story. And I guess I'm very unusual in that way because most people in the world are just terrible at telling a story because they leave out almost everything. So his summary of this story was very frustrating for me because there's so few details. But basically it was not there anymore. And he had no memory of when he last saw it or what could have happened to it. He did say something about, he did stop at the side of the road to go to the bathroom. And he said he took it off to go to the bathroom. I don't know why he would take it off. I wanted to know that as well. And then he said, maybe I put it down at that time and then I just left it there. He didn't know. And he didn't really speculate more than that. Like, was there a possibility that it was stolen, that it fell off, or he left it somewhere? Like, there was very little speculation about what could have happened, but he was very clear on the fact that he didn't have it anymore. Whatever happened. And then It was a very strange story too, because the next thing in the video, he was driving his scooter back up the highway, retracing his steps, looking for this fanny pack that he lost. But his flat tire wasn't fixed. He said in the video, yeah, so I just rode back up the highway on my flat tire and I was looking for this bag everywhere, and then he couldn't find it. But again, I'm thinking, why in the world didn't you get it fixed first? You're there, you're right at the mechanic shop to get your flat tire repaired, and the next thing I know, he's driving down the highway on his flat tire. And I guess I could understand it, I suppose. Maybe it was going to take a long time for them to fix the flat tire, and he was so panic-stricken about losing his passport and all his money and bank cards that he couldn't wait for them to finish. He just instantly hopped on the scooter and just drove away on the flat tire. But I don't know, it seemed like a very weird thing to do, because I assumed he'd have to backtrack for a lot of kilometers. He'd probably have to backtrack, I don't know, until he found the thing, maybe 20, 30 kilometers just riding and riding and riding. And you can't do that on a flat tire. So if you're going to go looking, retracing your steps, go to the police station, you got all these things you need to do, you're probably panicking, and I don't know, I'd fix the flat tire first. So I needed him to explain how in the world he was still riding around on a flat tire when he was right at the flat tire repair place. It just seemed really weird to me, because the guy, I don't know, it's just really strange. I needed that explained to me. And then he didn't really talk about exactly what he did, the steps, talking to people. He just sort of skipped ahead in the story, which I find really frustrating. But apparently he then, after he got his tire repaired, he drove all the way to Da Nang, and as he said, dropped off his scooter, and then he hopped on a bus and took a bus all the way to Da Nang, and then in the city of Da Nang, he rode all the way to Da Nang, dropped off his scooter, then he took a bus to Hanoi, and then in Hanoi he could go to the Australian embassy to start the process of getting a new passport or travel documents and get everything taken care of. And he basically jumped ahead in the video, like days later, after everything was done, he's in Hanoi, and then he tells the story about how he went to Da Nang, dropped off the scooter, and then took a bus to Hanoi, and then went to the embassy. And I found that really frustrating, because put all that in the video. I want to see video of you going to the embassy, telling what's going on, updating. It's such a huge story. I want all the details. And I didn't understand how he could drop off the scooter, because he rented the scooter in Saigon, and the whole deal, he rented it for 9 weeks, $450, he said, and then he's going to drop it off in Hanoi, Saigon to Hanoi. It's a standard thing that everybody does, because the company would have offices in both places. So I'm thinking, well, how in the world did he just dump it in Da Nang? How does that work? And I guess he probably contacted the company, told them what happened, and he's not going to complete his journey. And then they made arrangements for him to leave the scooter in Da Nang, and maybe someone's going to come pick it up and drive it back to Saigon. I don't know. Did he get a refund? Because he only had it for a couple of weeks, and he paid for 9 weeks before this disaster happened. So again, I'm like, yeah, all of this, I hate stories like that where they leave out all of the details. But anyway, quite an exciting little story. Felt sorry for the guy. Couldn't imagine. Though again, in the video, he didn't seem all that broken up about it, which is kind of weird. But I think that comes from how he kept telling the story in retrospect, but not in real time. I can tell you, if it had been me at that moment, there'd be some energy in my voice. There'd be some concern. But of course, he was telling the story days later, when he'd already started the process of getting a new passport. He probably already canceled all his credit cards and made arrangements. And I think he was going to fly back to Australia. He was just going to abandon his trip and go home. But again, he didn't explain any of his decision making or what happened. And he seemed pretty calm about it all. Kind of weird. And of course, the comments were pretty much what you'd expect, but I also thought the comments would be interesting. So because anytime something bad happens to you, you have a crash or your phone is stolen, your passport is stolen, you get ripped off, anything bad happens to you, then everybody loves to tell you all the things you did wrong and all the things you should have done. And they love to give you all the advice and tell you what they do to avoid all of these problems in the future. So you get all the standard ones that you shouldn't keep everything in one bag. Obviously, you shouldn't do that. Everybody knows that. And you have to keep some emergency money stashed away somewhere just in case this happens. If you lose your passport and your bank cards, well, you've got $500 tucked away somewhere to get you through this period, something like that. Everybody had advice to give him, and of course, yeah, I mean, to me that's pretty obvious. I would never do anything that he did, put everything into that one bag that he actually carries with him everywhere, wrapped around his waist on the outside of his body like a fanny pack. I don't know why you would do that, but that's what he did. So and yeah, kept everything together. All his money, all his cards, all his documents, and his passport. He lost everything just by misplacing that one bag. Seems pretty risky. And people said something that got my wheels turning. People said, oh, you should put air tags in your luggage. And that got my wheels turning because I've thought many, many times, probably over the last 2 years, I should get some sort of air tags. I guess the Apple ones, they're called air tags. And then Samsung makes them, they call them smart tags. And there's another company, Link something or other, they make tags. But anyway, they all basically do the same thing. They're little plastic trackers that you can put into your luggage or attach to anything. You can put them on your dog, on their collar, or put them in a knapsack or in a money belt, in your car, on your car keys. And then these tags are it's a fascinating technology. They ping other devices. So if you have an Apple AirTag, this AirTag, if it senses any Apple product around it, an iPhone or an iPad, it pings that device and then it takes that data, sends it back to the app, and then you can see on your phone where it is, because it has to be near other iPhones in order for it to work. And then Samsung smart tags, it works by pinging Samsung products. So it's a very interesting thing, very fascinating thing. And I keep coming across stories in the news. You see it all the time. Somebody flies around the world, but the airline loses their luggage. They don't know where it is. And then they'll say, oh, but I had an air tag in my suitcase, and look, it's now in Japan. They can see where their suitcase went, where the airline was bringing it, or if something gets stolen, of course, you can track it to the home of the thief. And every time I see one of those articles, I was like, gotta buy me a couple of those, gotta buy me a couple of those. And for whatever reason, I've been procrastinating. I never have. And I think I procrastinated because I didn't really understand them, how they worked. And I wasn't sure on the differences between, okay, you've got Apple AirTags and Samsung smart tags, and how do they, I didn't understand the technology, but I think I understand it quite a bit better now. And I'm thinking, yeah, I got to pick up a couple of those. They're like $30 US each. So you can buy 2 of them for $60, put one in your money pouch, put one in your camera bag, something like that. And who knows, you may end up never needing it. And maybe even if something is stolen from you, maybe it doesn't do you any good. Maybe you were never able to track it down, or the thief finds the tag right away and throws it away or something. It may end up doing no good at all, but there is the chance that it could really help you out a lot. Like I'm thinking for this guy, people kept telling him he should have had air tags or smart tags in his fanny pack, but depending on where he lost it, it may not do him any good because it doesn't connect to Wi-Fi. It only connects to other devices. So if he left it in the middle of nowhere in the bush 100 feet from the road, it would never be able to ping other devices, or not, I don't know. But you can also make it beep, I guess. So if he went back to some part of the road where he thought maybe he left the bag, he can activate it and it will make a beeping sound, and maybe he could find it that way. But feels like whether or not the tag can work for you, having a couple is better than not having them. And I think it'd be a lot of fun to figure out how they work. It's like all technology. I don't really understand it until I try to use it myself. And then it's like, that's how it works. Now I get it. Okay. I just like to know more about them. So I'm willing to spend $30 on one just so I can have it, but also the fun of setting it up and using it. So I guess Samsung came out with the Smart Tag 2, which is a big improvement over the first generation. So yeah, right now is a good time to buy one if you're going to buy one. But yeah, I don't think I ever mentioned the guy's name. I'm going on and on about this YouTuber, and his name is David Khai. That's the name of his YouTube channel as well, Khai. And yeah, I don't know where he is now. But yeah, I'm very much a tough audience when it comes to YouTube travel videos, because this guy, David Khai, he also said guys all the time. Every sentence, everything started with guys. Hey guys, guys. And I was like, stop saying guys. Another one of my pet peeves. Last YouTube story. I just wanted to chat a little bit about these YouTubers I found. I don't know a lot about them. I haven't done a deep dive into their channel or their life, but I've been aware of them for a little while. They're called Flow Travelers, man and a woman. I believe they're European, some variety of different European. He could be from Spain or something like that. She could be from Germany or France. I don't really know. I should have looked that up. Let me look that up just to get it straight. It doesn't say where they're from. Their channel about page, it just says a passionate full-time travel couple. And their names are Yusuf and Vero. I'm assuming Yusuf is the guy, so maybe he's from North Africa or the Middle East in some way. Morocco, I don't know. And so I don't know where they're from, but English is not their first language. And that ties in with my thoughts about them. But a lot of the YouTubers that I talk about, I end up with a bunch of pet peeves about them because I see problems in their videos or in their style, the things they do, and yet their videos are massively popular. And I'm like, oh, come on. But then there's a whole world of other YouTubers, travel YouTubers in particular, like Flow Travelers, who clearly work so hard. They work really hard on their videos, spend a lot of time on them, make a lot of really smart decisions, and yet their videos in their channels just get no traction at all. Like very few views. And then I look at their channel and think, so what is going on here? Because this couple, they made a lot of decisions that if I were organized, I would make, because I've often had this idea in the past. There's things I like to do. I've never gotten around to doing it, mainly because of who knows. But they do a lot of things that I think I would want to do, thinking that these would be really popular on YouTube. And they do all these things, and they do everything right. Their thumbnails are full of energy, lots of typical YouTube, like, amazing, lots of high energy, big smiles, crazy exotic looking destinations. So they work really hard on their thumbnails. They're both very high energy people. From my point of view, too much. I don't need all of that craziness all the time, but that's their style, I guess. That's their personality. And what I was talking about when I started this little story is they pick real topics. So here's one, for example, a month ago in Nepal, they spent time in a nunnery. So a day in the life of nuns. So what I mean is they didn't just go on a day little hike and, oh, look, there's a monastery, and they film it from the outside. No, they went in there and they stayed there for a while, and they put on the local dress and they ate their food and they learned about it. They spent a day or longer. I don't know how long they were there. I haven't watched that video, but they spent the whole day in the monastery, dressed up in the local clothes. And so it was like, wow, that must be really, really interesting. And then there's one here from Sumatra called Planting Rice, where they didn't just go out in the countryside and take video of people planting rice. No, they asked if they could do it with them. And they clearly did this for the video. They thought it would be really interesting for a YouTube video, so they stripped down, took off if they had long pants, got down to shorts, took off their shoes, and they went out into the field in the mud with all the local rice farmers, and then they got them to teach them how to plant the rice. And I think, wow, that's really fascinating. That's something I've always thought, wow, that would be an interesting YouTube video. It would be very, very popular. And they did it, but it isn't popular. This planting rice has 200 views, and it's been up for 2 weeks. I mean, they did everything right. The video's 20 minutes long, has a great thumbnail. They did something really interesting that would have a lot of good information, deserves a lot more attention than 200 views, but only 200 views. So again, I'm wondering what the heck is going on. And then they went to a wedding. That's a classic YouTuber thing. They went to a Batak wedding on Sumatra. They were invited and they put on all the traditional local clothing and probably had the local food. Again, I haven't watched any of these videos. That kind of might explain why they're not that popular, because I do find their rhythm of the video, the style of it, is not very appealing, at least not to me. It's just over the top, too much. Like, it's trying too hard. That's my takeaway from their videos. They're just trying way too hard. I get the impulse, because I think they see other YouTube travel videos and they try to emulate them, and maybe their personalities. They got the big smiles and like, it's always, everything's amazing. And I'm like, just dial it back. You got to dial it back for me. Otherwise, I can't sit through videos that have that much over the top energy. But again, it just jumped out at me, the Flow Travelers. I chatted with them a little bit through the comments, because they even used clickbait, and even the clickbait didn't really help that much. Where's the one I'm thinking of? When I first became aware of them, because I've been to Sumatra quite a bit, I've been to Indonesia, I've had a lot of experience with visas, the visa on arrival, getting visa on arrival extensions. I know a lot about that topic, and they posted a video that had the big word on it, rejected. Why? And then a picture of a visa page from their passport, and it said, our Indonesian visas expired. Problem with immigration, rejected. And I thought, whoa, what the heck happened? I've never heard of anybody being rejected. And then how in the world did they let their visas expire? That's kind of a big oversight. So I was like, oh, what happened here? So I clicked on it, but all of that was clickbait, because all they did, they were actually at Lake Toba, and then their visas were going to expire soon. You only get 30 days in Indonesia. So they decided to go to immigration in the nearby city of Siantar, which I've done many, many times. So I was interested to watch their video. And then they basically went from Lake Toba to Siantar. They went to immigration. And when they got to immigration, they found out what I could have told them, that it's going to take at least a week to process. They have to go to the immigration office, and then they have to apply, and then they've got to pay for it. Then they've got to come back and get their fingerprints taken, and then they've got to go away, come back 3 days later. And it's a big, long process. And they did all that. They went to immigration, applied for an extension, got the extension, and that was the end of it. So at no time, their visas did not expire. They were not rejected. They had no problems. Everything worked exactly how it was supposed to, and yet they went the clickbait route and said, rejected, visas expired, problems. And actually none of these things were true. They did it just for views, just to get the clicks. And it didn't work. They got 130 views for that video. Yes, Sumatra is just not a popular topic. Unless you're hanging out with the orangutans, nobody wants to hear about Sumatra. I learned that from all my videos. There's other like full-time vloggers from Sumatra. I guess that's not entirely true, because there were those two guys, mainly three, on motorcycles who did a journey through Sumatra, and their videos were extremely popular. So it's not Sumatra's fault. It's it's my fault for making boring videos. But yeah, they went to the Sumatran orangutans business. They did the jungle trekking, and 130 views, that's all. They do everything local, like local bus ride, hanging out with the locals, all these buzzwords for YouTube travel videos, but nothing's working for them. I'm amazed how hard they're working on all these videos. How long have they been doing it? If I look at their oldest video, yeah, they've been doing it for 1 year. And 142 videos in 1 year. It's a lot of work, let me tell you. And they started off in Africa. And you'd think in Africa, their videos would be like really, really popular. Senegal, I haven't watched any of those. But right from the beginning, their thumbnails are highly developed. They clearly worked on them to try and make them as clickable as possible. And their videos are, yeah, they seem to be doing absolutely everything right. And yet 100 views, 200 views, a couple more than that. There's one 5,000, then 5,000, 3,000. That would be in India. But now we're back to 100 views, 300 views, 180, 72. Even in Malaysia, they're doing everything right. Any YouTuber knows if you want a bump in views or subscribers, Malaysia is a good place to go, because the population of Malaysia is just very in touch with YouTube. They're interested in YouTube videos, and people watch a lot of videos in Malaysia. You see that all the time. So they went to Malaysia, they went to Penang, Georgetown, 72 views for their Georgetown street art video, 238 views for their Penang video. It's just weird. I don't know why they're so unpopular. Could be language. They don't speak English that clearly. It's not their first language. But anyway, just wanted to mention them because they're a little bit different from all the other YouTubers I talk about. The other YouTubers tend to be really popular, like Barefoot Vlogger, Paddy, Doyle, Itchy Boots. And now here's the other side of the coin. Sometimes for me as a YouTuber, it's kind of nice to see that, because normally all you see are the super successful, really popular YouTubers, and it makes you feel kind of depressed, or not depressed, but kind of sucks the wind out of your sails to think how hard you have to work on your videos, and yet these other people who don't do any work at all, apparently, and they get hundreds of thousands of views, millions of views. So sometimes it's nice to see people like this, and there's quite a few of them out there who work really hard on their videos, do everything right, and I actually, yeah, like 100 views, 200 views, things like that. But I do wonder why. YouTube is a bit of a mystery, which I guess is another way of saying people are a mystery. And as always, I have other things to talk about. I'm going to pick up on my pop culture discussions again, because from time to time I do manage to watch a TV show or a movie or something like that. So I want to talk about those a little bit. I haven't done that for a while because I've just been so busy here in Vietnam. I'd like to start doing that again. And I took all of my technology stories and put them at the end of my list. So rather than starting with them, which is probably a good idea. But I have some pop culture stuff, I've got some technology stuff, I got some podcast stuff I want to talk about. But all of that will be in the next behind the scenes video, because for today, I think I've been talking long enough. Absolutely. Someone did make a suggestion in a comment that I could do these videos as live streams. And I do like the idea in principle, but I don't know if it would ever work, because even as I'm recording these videos, I do stop from time to time because I want to make a cup of coffee or finish defrosting my freezer or look up some information or get my facts straight, change the battery in the camera, things like that. And then, yeah, you can't really do all that during a live stream. Plus, there's so many technical problems with live streams. They don't seem to work that well. All the live streams I've tried to watch, I eventually give up on them because it's mainly someone just staring at their computer and trying to figure out why it's not working. Plus, yeah, what else? I guess that's it. Live streams. It would be kind of fun to do, but I haven't figured out. I have so much trouble with technology. I shudder at the thought of trying to figure out how to set up a live stream and get it to work properly using the GoPro or something like that, or a smartphone. Oh, I'll bet you it would just be weeks of my life and weeks of frustration and pulling out my hair to try and get it to work. That's how it always goes. But anyway, I have a lot of technology stuff to talk about as well, but I'll save that for the next video because I've been talking for a very long time today already. So that's it. Shutting down, going to get back to my regular life, and as always, I'll see you in the next behind the scenes video.